Hello, everyone. We are here, even though Kurdai is not, and this is definitely the first take that we've done of this.
Oh my gosh, the first time something weird happened, then the computer got confused, and now I yawn when I'm supposed to be laughing. The second laugh was genuine. The third one was a little forced in the middle of the yawn. Sorry, guys.
It's all right. I mean, I'm excited today. We got like 12 or 13 reviews to get through, and I cannot remember the last time I had this many reviews for one chapter.
And it was pretty funny this week because normally he's really good about not looking at the reviews until the day we record. But every time his phone went off, he'd be bouncing off the walls and running in to read the review.
It was like I did the thing. I want to know what people thought of it.
So we've been having fun reading them this week, but we will do our best to respond fresh.
Yes. Yes. It's been a little bit since we've read some of these. But let's go ahead and get them out. Let's go ahead and get to them because, like I said, it's like 12 or 13 of them to get through. So Wilfred Yao or Yao, I'm not entirely sure which pronunciation is correct there. I hope I got one of them right. But they open up by saying, I don't know what to say. But I know that I was crying while reading this, and I was listening to a sad song too, which did not help. I gotta say, that was one of the best things I've ever read, and also one of the most sad chapters ever. I appreciate the compliments, dude. I was listening to the movie soundtrack like on repeat constantly while I was writing up these chapters because I wanted mood music is a thing that helps me like to set the tone, like with the vernacular that goes into the chapter. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
no, that makes sense. I mean, there's certain I haven't done any like serious artwork in a long time, but when I was like in college working on my practicum and doing like some really intensive painting sessions, I was really picky about what music I was listening to with each project, and that really informed what I was doing creatively. So it makes sense to me, even though I'm not a writer.
So that's weird though, because like when I do artwork, I just need music as background noise to like kind of tune everything else out. Like it doesn't really matter too much what I'm listening to. Like what I'm listening to doesn't really affect the subject matter that I'm illustrating.
See, and for me with art, I hyperfixate so fast. I do not need music to tune things out. I'm also the child of a musician, so constant noise is just normal to me.
Fair enough.
So like screaming children and dogs barking and all of the nonsense that happens in our house, I don't even notice it half the time, and I feel bad because then all of a sudden you're growing.
The dogs will be barking like nuts in the morning, and for some reason I'm the only one who ever hears it.
But if Daniel like whimpers in the net, like
you're instantly up.
3 rooms over, I'm out of bed and across the house in 2 seconds. It's just that mom brain. Anyway, sorry, total tangent. But yes, I get it, man. Sometimes, and also when I'm reading, because again, I haven't done serious reading for a while. Sorry,
you were reading this summer earlier.
Yeah, that's different though. It's different.
It's like historical reading.
Almost like reading a history. You have to be really focused. But whenever I'm reading like feel good fiction, I gotta have my mood music. The dog.
I think our dog is barking in her sleep. That's hilarious.
Oh, okay.
Right,
sorry.
No, that's good.
Keep going.
Okay, let's see. They go on to say, so it looks like he tried to pass one for all back to Izuku, and I think it may have succeeded.
That was the cutest thing I've ever seen. I'm sorry. One of our dogs was having a nightmare, and the other one jumped down and started licking her face to wake her up.
Oh, that's cute.
That was so cute. Okay,
good job, Taco.
Sorry.
Good
Continue.
Job, Taco.
I promise I'm going to stop being distracted now. He just looks at me. I'm trying. Okay, I'm sorry, Wilfred. Okay. We're trying.
It's okay. Let's see. I think it may have succeeded. No, he did not try to pass one for all back to Deck. Apparently, I didn't word that clearly enough that he was trying to pass on Energon to Deku, not one for all, because he was operating under the assumption that, once one for all comes to somebody, it's not going to backtrack, or like it can't backtrack.
Yeah, that gotta love that dramatic irony, because as a listener, because I'm not really a reader of this story. Sorry, I'm a listener. I definitely thought he was trying to give back one for all, and because I only know that's not the case because you've explained it to me.
Okay.
So that might be something to like look back and see what possibly could have changed in the narration.
I might have to take a look at that, because like I thought it was very clear that
I don't know. I don't know if it's just because we know that One for All just automatically goes back to Deku in the original canon. But, you know, if you don't know that, it would be easy to assume that it's like, oh, he's trying to give him some form of power any way he can. Then I guess you could assume. But I mean, like, for me, I'm just like, he's trying to give back anything, just anything he can. He doesn't know what's going to work, just hoping for a miracle, basically.
Yeah, there is some truth to that.
That's the way I took it. It's like, he doesn't know if he can give any or all of this back to him, but he's going to try because he can't bear to let another person go without a quirk because of him.
Yeah, yeah. He hates that. But
so yes.
Oh man. So we gotta wait no, you don't gotta wait. I just told you he wasn't trying to give One for All back to him. Let's see. The scene with Bakugo was emotional, and the scene with Izuku and All Might is also really sad. Yeah, that was a real, like, I got bummed out writing that. I don't even know how that would have been to, like, read that blind. Like,
that was a gut punch for sure.
Yeah,
that one hurt. I was already tearing up a little bit, and then that really choked me up, the conversation between Deku and All Might.
Yeah, let's see. Like, there was a thought to where All Might might kind of freak out, but I decided, like, even if he was gonna freak out, he knows this is not the time to do it.
And I mean, at this point, he's just got to be resigned, because he knows he chose Midoriya, and there's nothing he can do about it, and there's nothing he could do. And I think that's something that, I mean, if you think about it, All Might personally right now, because we're always thinking about what the kids are feeling, and, you know, we at this point, since All Might has lost One for All, he's, you know, he's almost become sidelined and just this, you know, figure who we've looked up to, but he's now on the sidelines, and he's just, like, stressed out and worried and trying to figure things out, right? And so we don't think about the fact that he's probably going through some major emotional turmoil.
Some identity crisis stuff happening there.
Because, I mean, he's been going for a few years now. He's been deteriorating.
But he's still been able to be All Might.
Yeah. But he's having to come to grips with the fact that he's not healthy. He's probably getting closer to the end of his life. He no longer has his quirk, and he's got to trust that this young boy is going to use it well, and that he made the right choice. And I believe that he believes in Midoriya with all his heart. And I genuinely think that, I mean, he's probably been really doing a lot of soul searching and figuring out how to let things go and let them be, because stressing out about it, especially now, like, in the face of death, it's not going to solve anything. And he knows Midoriya. He knows how passionate he is, and he knows the weight of having that responsibility. So I don't think tearing into him at this point is something that All Might would do. No, like, it was a very brief thought. Yeah. And, like, if anything, it would have been kind of comedic in nature, but again, for multiple reasons, it's not the time for comedy. It's not the time for cutting people down. It's just like, we gotta figure out how to deal with this. And at the end of the day, it is All Might. Yes. He does genuinely care for people, and he's gonna have that line of reasoning, because, you know, again, he's a more mature adult in the situation. He is the mature adult in the situation, and I would expect only the best of our hero to be the, you know, as an American, the Superman in the situation.
I remember, like, first time going into this series, like season 1, like episode 1, I was like, this guy's gonna be a dick.
Yeah,
I was like, there's no way this guy is all that they say he is. He's about to, like, destroy Midoriya here. And then, like, he does kind of break Midoriya's heart, but he did it in a way that, like, I could understand why he did it. And I'm like, and as the story went on, I was like, this guy really is awesome. I love All Might.
Yeah, same thing. Dry run going into the series, I 100% thought that All Might was going to be a jerk. I was like, oh, this guy, oh yeah, he's just, because I think we've gotten so deluded with that idea of the perfect hero. Yeah. Because Superman lost his romance when he rewound time, right? And then we started playing with,
I don't know if that's when they lost the romance.
No, it is, because, you know, and they kept making the movies and they were popular, but it's like, okay, we've talked about it before. It's not the question of can he do it. It's should he do it.
Yep.
And so it just Superman turned into more of a moral thing than a perseverance thing. Yes, exactly. And then we get into, well, Batman versus Superman. Like, is Superman doing
that movie should not have happened?
But even with the comics, it's like the ethics that go into it is like, is Superman really that good of a guy? And you start questioning his standing and his, so it's just, I think because we are coming out of that in our pop culture, having basically what is Superman and like the in the purest form, that was refreshing to kind of come back to that. So yeah. I think that's just who All Might is, and that's who he needs to be for us.
Yeah. Let's see. Last thing says is the last scene with Akarui is a really nice touch. The next chapter will be heavy for the rest of the class and the teachers. As always, good job. Well, thank you for saying so. Yeah, it's not going to be just the next. There's going to be a lot of chapters that deal with some heavy stuff from here on out.
Yeah.
The next phase is not a fun phase, guys.
But if you stick it out, we're here for you. I'm really seriously looking forward to, because I've been with him while he's been writing it, and it's been like a long haul. So I'm looking forward to it starting to come to fruition and seeing what you guys are seeing. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Wilfred Yao.
I'm gonna go with Yao.
Okay, yeah. I hope that we're correct. Thank you, friend. Zuki-sama, Ari's gonna bring him back to life, right? Right.
I mean, do you think that Ari can bring it back to life at this point? Like, we have seen her bring someone back to life who has been dead briefly. Because there was that bit where Chizuki, like, he absorbed that guy into him. It's like he had the forearms bit. And then Ari started using her quirk on accident. And she separated them. And we saw that his minion was alive later on. He was arrested. So she can bring people back to life. The problem is, A, she doesn't know how, even if she had the energy to do so. And B, like, actually, I don't know. A and B are together. She hasn't even started her training yet. In the manga and the anime, she doesn't start her training until after Christmas. This is still a few weeks before then.
Okay.
So, like, A, she might not even have enough energy in her horn. B, she doesn't know how.
Yeah, and she's just still so petrified from all the trauma that I don't think she's even ready.
You're not going to stick her in front of a corpse and be like, hey, experiment on this.
How old is she? 6?
They don't know how old she is, but I'm going to go with 5 or 6.
She might be a little older, because I think a lot of times when kids go through trauma, their growth and like emotional well-being, like all of that is stunted.
Okay, yeah.
And so often kids who've been abused are much smaller and appear to be much younger than they are.
I know her age is like officially listed like in the My Hero index or something.
You guys will have to fact check us on that one.
Yeah, but 6 or 7.
But either anyway.
We almost went on a tangent there again. Let's see. So yeah, that's moving on to Light Hero.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Zuki-sama.
Yeah.
Thank you for your review. We got a few new ones in here.
Yeah. All right. Light Hero Kaiser.
All right. You want me to take this one?
Yes.
All right. Most interesting. Great chapter, mate. Can't wait for more. Kaito. Wait, are you still crying? No, the chapter made me cry again. Well, that's understandable. Akarui was a true hero. You would know about being a true hero. Anyway, I have an idea of who bumped into the Clonaraki. Clonaraki. I like that. I really like that. That's a good one. Kaito. Ha! Clonaraki. That's a good one. Good for the Shigaraki clone. Okay, so yeah,
Jinx. Jinx, Kaito.
Let's see. As I was saying, glares at Kaito, I think the person who bumped into the Clonaraki was one of two. Number 1, it was a clone of Blake, or number 2, it was Cinder. But that's just what I think, meaning I'm most likely wrong. Don't put yourself down. I'll tell you that it wasn't Blake, definitely. Or it wasn't a clone of Blake. Blake's clones, at least as I understand them, Okay, so in the original show, it's literally just an after image of her that gets hit.
Yeah.
I've taken it a step further in this because, quirks grow, they evolve. Yes. So I think shadow clones aren't out of the picture for her. But the way that I have them in my head is that they don't, they can't really function beyond, like her initial thought that goes into them. Like they don't go off and do their own thing.
They're not like Naruto.
They're not they're not. They don't have sentience. They just kind of. She's kind of like, hey, go do a thing, and then once they've done that thing or failed to do that thing, they just disappear. So yeah, it's definitely not a Blake clone. Let's see. Kaito sees light glaring at him and smiles. Wait, Light, are you a fan of glare? Kaito, don't make me hurt you, and you know I like Gazer more. Yeah, you do. You're a fan of the white and gold ones. Anyway, best end to this review. This is most likely my longest one. Blade Hero, Kaiser, and Bow Hero Impact signing out. Yeah, I think that is the longest one he's ever put on there. Gazer and... Yeah, I don't know who those people are, dude. Sorry. We don't watch Kamen Rider. I don't think I'm ever going to. Sorry, man.
Thank you, Light Hero.
Thank you for the review. We appreciate it.
All right.
Let's see.
Ed Marshall. Is that a new one?
Yeah, if they've put up a review, I don't think it's been for Your Hero. It's A, been a while, or B, it hasn't been on Your Hero, but I feel like I've seen them in some of my other stuff.
Okay, cool.
Do you want me to take this one?
All right, I think I can do it.
Okay.
Being a reader of your fics, knowing his death is most certainly definitive. I don't regret I don't regret Kai's death. You made him go out in a blaze of glory saving his loved ones. What I do regret is how can Deku still be the number one hero with just the embers if he hasn't already used them all? And the fate of One For All, you didn't hint at One For All coming back to Deku like in the canon movie. I don't believe you're going to pull an Eri uses rewind to bring Deku back to his state before he gave One For All, so I wonder if Akarui will have a solution to give One For All, get it back from his dead brother, or will the quirk come back like in canon, as the 10th and final holder of One For All would still be accurate, because Deku is the 9th, even if the quirk comes back to him. But damn, if not the fact that One For All is lost, how are you going to make a whole story facing All For One without a quirk equivalent like One For All or Kai's quirk? It made me remember the plot of Precognition in another fic where One For All did disappear, but at the same time it's All For One, so I wonder how you're going to do it. I mean, I don't know how to answer that without giving spoilers, honestly. But keep up the thoughts.
Keep the thoughts, dude. Like,
all right.
Far be it from me to debunk a theory.
And the beauty of theories is if it's not in this fanfic, it can be in a new one.
It's probably in another one.
Right? All right. And then he continues that review in the next comment. So I withdraw my previous comment. There are details I missed when I reread the chapter a second time, and now I know that Deku will still be able to somehow be the greatest hero.
Yeah.
But now I wonder if the Dark Deku arc will come earlier, or somehow it will be like a 5 Steps of Grief arc where we will all see each person in Kai and the Kai entourage personify those steps, or everyone experiencing them at once.
I don't think people would experience all 5 stages of grief like together in order, like at the same time.
But as in with a narrative in mind, like obviously everyone's gonna be grieving in different stages in different ways. But I mean, like when you're talking narrative, you know, there's certain you'd still be talking if you're going to cover it. I mean, it's a fair assumption that you're going to be covering it with a few different people.
It'll be more focused on some people than others. But
I think you're looking at it a little too like
literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My bad.
I think he's just guessing it that's where you're going next.
Okay.
With the fanfic.
All right. Yeah. I mean. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a grieving process. I'm not going to get into like how exactly that's going to play out here.
No, we're just going to move on and pretend this never happened. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I'm really snarky today. I'm sorry.
Here's my problem is that I have this so planned out so far in advance that I'm like, I don't want to slip. Like, it's not that I'm trying to dismiss you guys. It's that I don't want to spoil the story for you.
It's hard. And the other thing is, I think initially you were going to keep the plot rolling pretty quickly, but then in retrospect, you went back and added a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wait a minute, we need to kind of slow down and process a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and the characters do too. They can't just like bounce right back from this. So
yeah, this ain't fairy tale.
Anyway, but yes, so Ed Marshall, that is a very solid assumption. Okay, in fairy tale, it is rare that people die. But when they do, oh yeah, that one guy.
Simon.
Freaking Simon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got sad when they killed Igneal.
That
was sad.
That's like, that one there were actually repercussions, but Simon dying was like Luke when his aunt and uncle died, and he's like, oh well.
Oh, okay, we're back.
Oh, okay. Thought the computer was freaking out.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, anyway, then Luke, this random old man that he just spent a couple days with dies, and it's the worst thing ever, and he's all depressed, right? So it's like, obviously it was...
These people are not good at processing their emotions.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like that. We can't be like George Lucas, except, no offense, I love George Lucas, even though he can be a tool
if I was as
sometimes.
successful as George Lucas, I don't think I'd have anything to complain about.
Yeah. No, I think everything. To be fair, quick tangent. Everyone picks on Luke, but it's like, I think things were going by so quickly and fast paced that he didn't have time to process his aunt and uncle. And I think that when Obi-Wan died, no spoilers. This has been out for freaking years.
This has been out since the 70s.
I think that really, and like we have the falling action after that. He finally has time to process his aunt and uncle being dead, and like all of a sudden he's left the only home he's ever known, and he's like a space wizard, and he doesn't know what he's doing. Like I think that's the point of that sad scene when he's staring out into the galaxy.
Yeah.
And so anyway, sorry, total random tangent.
No?
I think that there's that's the problem about telling stories cinematically is you have to skim over certain details to keep it within the right amount of time, and that's why we have novels, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry I totally took that in a weird direction.
No worries.
Ed.
No.
But thank you, Ed Marshall, for your review. Hope you keep coming back.
Yeah.
All right. Atomical. Atomo.
Yeah, it's our favorite name-changing person
yes.
who changes
Hello,
their name like every other chapter.
That is okay. She is allowed. All right, man, that tasted great.
Excuse you?
I won't lie, even though we saw it coming from a mile away. Sorry, I just punched the desk with my ring. Ow. Anyway, you still somehow managed to surprise me.
Yes.
I thought he would die in Bakugo's arms, not try to make an effort to restore One for All despite his state of exhaustion. That hurt.
He wasn't
Well, hey.
I gotta go back.
Multiple people took it that way. Yeah. Well, that's the point of this. It's okay. It's okay to squirm in under
I went
eyes
over
of
this
scrutiny.
so carefully. I don't understand how I could have contrived it any other way.
Because One for All is the quirk that can be passed. That's the way people think of it. You have to, so you have to go back and think about how you could have articulated that.
Okay.
Anyway, that's okay. It's okay. That's the purpose of
I feel like it would have been
critique.
kind of difficult to clearly articulate it from the point of someone who's literally dying.
That's okay. That's okay. It's all right, honey. All right. And you ruined it with a pun. Of all things.
Oh, yeah, in the author's notes section afterwards, I was just like, the light has gone out in the world.
What is wrong with you?
Do you want that list delivered chronologically discovered or alphabetical? Because either way, we're going to be sitting here until the next chapter releases if we do.
I can't even be mad. That was good. I won't lie, my hands are shaking at the moment. Yeah. Ooh, unhealthy coping mechanism arc. Fun.
That basically sums up phase 5.
Looking forward to the next chapter and seeing how everyone else reacts. At least he's happy. Rest in peace, Hikari.
Yeah.
Thank you, Atomical.
Yeah, without giving spoilers, you kind of just summed up what the next phase is about.
Speaking of bad puns, Atomical. Just kidding. All right. Thank you, friend. All right. Next, Depressed Crow 2544. That is an amazing handle.
I like that handle.
I love it. Oh, he dead. I thought he'd live to see another day, honestly.
No, man. I said I was going to kill him. He dead.
Yep.
He dead.
Well, thank you.
How dead is he? Cadaverific.
Well, thank you, Depressed Crow.
Thank you.
2544.
Yes. Thank you.
Hope you come back. That is great.
All right. Silver 4700 coming in with the novella.
Yeah, my dyslexia. Dude, thank you so much for spacing out the paragraphs. I'm just genuinely fatigued. It's nothing personal. Love you, friend. All right, Joe's going to take it away, though.
All right, let's see. Oh my gosh. Akarui is dead. I mean, I knew this was coming soon, but the way that he died, it genuinely made me cry. I never thought I'd say it, but I'm going to miss him dearly. Of course not. That guy's finally gone. Time to throw a Kurai's dead party. Ring the bell, shout it in the street, send a message to the king at once. Get Shigaraki, get Cinder, heck, get Switch out of prison if you can. We're done with him. The slow burn is finally over. It took 77 chapters, but we finally made it. Fun fact about the numbers on this chapter, interesting enough. So 7 is the number of completion. So we got 7-7. Technically, we could still count it as a number of completion. It also takes place. His death also takes place on chapter 13 of phase 4, which is 13 is often registered with bad luck. So you got the number of completion coming in with bad luck. So ha! I definitely didn't do that on purpose, but I'm glad it turned out that way.
Nice.
Yeah. Happy little accidents, man. Happy little
You're
accidents.
So strange.
I know.
I love you.
If I wasn't strange, do you think I would be doing this?
No.
There we go. My strangeness should be a given. All right, fine. I'll get serious. I'll start with this and then go through the chapter more methodically. I do genuinely love how you wrote Kurai's death scene. It was good. It was heartwarming. It might have been heartbreaking for me, but I lack a heart. I'm guessing that's a Kingdom Hearts reference to being heartless, but moving on.
Knowing Silver,
yeah. Everything from Bakugo's reactions to Kurai's last moments was a joy to read for more reasons than one. See, I don't know that I believe you. I think you were just happy to see Kurai dead. Imagine having, 16 different quirks crammed inside of you at once? Not one quirk with multiple outputs, 8 quirks with an additional 8. No. It was 3 quirks to begin with, if you're going to do that. Get your math right, at least. You can delude yourself into the explanation of outputs, but that's still not how it works. Okay, it's 8 outputs. It was 3 quirks originally. It's not even 8 outputs. It's 7 chakra abilities.
Just think Green Lantern, my dude. Think Green Lantern.
What do I need to think about Green Lantern?
Not you.
Oh.
Sorry, that came out mean. I know you're sensitive.
I'm so confused right now. Stop picking on me!
In his defense, I was being like psycho overtired hormonal person earlier, so he's extra sensitive with everyone because I was being mean. I have repented. Okay, I'm being nice. I'm trying my best.
I love you.
I'm drinking tea. Okay. Sorry.
How about a cup of calming jasmine tea? I don't need any calming tea. I need to recapture the avatar.
Just hot leaf juice. All right.
How could a member of my own family say something so horrible?
Okay.
Not the best Iroh impersonation I know, but cut me some slack.
Okay.
Let's see. It will be interesting to see both All for One's and Shigaraki's response to knowing that One for All is permanently gone. If not for the reason that was why both of them, mainly All for One, targeted All Might and later on Izuku. I wonder. Well, Inaike is going to play a new role, but what will the response to that be, I wonder? I'm not telling you guys, you're going to have to read about it. It's a very small line and even a throwaway line, but, quote, he had decided to stare death in the eye and spit in his face believing he could best it yet again, end quote. Everyone thinks they can defeat death until they're actually faced with it. It comes like a thief in the night, and I like to think that if death was personified, it knows exactly when you would die and that you ultimately can't defeat it. It would love the chase, and it would think it amusing every time someone thought they could defeat him. But no one has escaped him yet.
Sorry, that just made me think of that video you sent me with the Grim Reaper coming after Itachi.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Gosh,
that was hilarious.
Sorry.
That's a really funny video.
You get it.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so on that quote, I'm going to defend this in the sense that it's a narrative. It was like, it's a narrative sense to try and get how he's feeling, because for Kurai operates under the assumption, if not belief, that nobody really wants to die when the time comes, and when you do die, you should try to face it with some dignity. Obviously that's untrue of a lot of people.
But
that's how he's always chosen to look at it when it comes.
Worldview.
Yeah, that's how he chooses to look at it when it comes for him.
Okay.
He's like, all right, the moment's here. I can't run from this anymore. Time to go out with some dignity at least. Let's see. Actually, now that I think of it, there's a lot in this story specifically about death and how people react to it, whether that's intentional or not. I'm going to go with semi-intentional, like death affects people, like in different ways. And like a lot of this story has not centered on, but featured how Kurai has had to deal with death, his own notwithstanding, his uncle first, and then his dad, and
that's been one of the major character building aspects that's played into this story. And as a reader / listener or whatever, like that, I mean, that's a huge part of what's formed who he is. Like one of the biggest things that makes him tick is when anything is, you know, referencing his uncle's death or what have you at the very beginning. Yeah. So I mean, I would, as a reader, whether you intended it or not, like I think I totally agree that that's a major theme in this story.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, I would agree with you that it is a major theme. I just don't think it's the central theme, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Where was I on this thing? In between all that, death seems like a fantasy to others, as if it's inconceivable that death would come for anyone you care about, as seen with the little moment with Kirishima. Maybe I'm looking too much into it.
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think at this point, Kirishima, like, he's gone through everything with these guys.
He's seen what Akarui can do.
He knows he's hella powerful. He knows they've won because clearly stuff's not blowing up anymore. So it's like, oh yeah, everything's good. Everybody's good. Like he's operating under the assumption that everything's turned out great, just like it has in the past.
I mean, yeah, in his head, you know, Deku, Bakugo, and Akarui, they must have figured something out to pull off a win.
Yeah, the sun's shining. The villains aren't attacking anymore, so we've got to be okay. And I think that's a totally natural response too.
Yeah.
He's not quite as cynical as others who would be like waiting
for the other foot to drop.
Yeah. The other shoe.
Yeah. Is the other shoe or is it the other?
It's the other shoe.
I've heard it both ways. Let's see. All right. Another thing, we never really got nearly as much development from Bakugo in this story, at least not in comparison to the original show, mainly because Deku and Bakugo's relationship there was a lot more fleshed out for obvious reasons. Well, yeah, in some aspects, Kurdai definitely took over the role that Bakugo would have filled. So, you know, sorry, Bakugo, but, you know, got to make a little bit of room.
He just hasn't had, I mean, he's still developing as a person, but we just haven't had that camera view of him since he hasn't been the focus in the story.
I mean, I tried to make it a point not to write him out completely. I still wanted to keep him relevant because he is a dynamic character. He has plenty to contribute. I didn't want to just shove him aside.
And he's a huge part of
Deku's journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That said, this is not like, well, I mean, now it might be, but up to this point, this has not been Deku's story. This has been Kurdai's story. So, you know, by proxy, Bakugo kind of gets shuffled off a little bit. All right. With that in mind, I genuinely hope that Bakugo grows more into his own moving forward in however much of the story is left. Oh, don't worry, dude. There's plenty of this story left. It would it would be really cool to see because even in the original show, I don't believe that Bakugo has ever come face to face with death. At least not the exact way as in this story. Moving on. Kirishima. Hey, Bakugo, what happened? Where's Hikari? He's gone, you idiot. Well, yeah, I figured. Did he already go back to the mainland? Kirishima, you want to know what happened to Hikari? You ever seen Scanners? No. Scanners, it's a movie that, actually, hold on. Pulls out his phone, pulls up a clip from Scanners where a guy's head literally blows up. Okay, that was from Scanners. Basically that. Kirishima, looking at the shroud. Bakugo, is that? Okay, finally, we're seeing some gears turning. We're making progress.
At least Bakugo wasn't that mean about it.
Yeah. Good SAO bridge quote in here, but yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, that's how messed up this whole thing is that, like, Bakugo was very Bakugo about it, but he wasn't nasty about it.
I mean, he is hurting.
Yeah.
Just as much as anybody.
I put in the line where he couldn't get his friend's heart. I put that word in there very specifically.
That killed me.
I did that on purpose.
Stop hurting my feelings.
I can't do that. I'm an author.
Fiction.
Can't do that. That's part of my job description. In all seriousness, that moment with Kaminari really brought it home. Sorry, I think he meant to say Kirishima there. Really brought it home. Again, people's reactions to death is both really fascinating, but also really hard to write sometimes. Props to you. I mean, yeah, it really is hard to, like, I know how I react to death because I have had family members die, but I have a hard time dealing with sympathy to begin with. So to write on something that heavy of a topic and to apply it to so many characters who are just so vastly different from one another.
That's a major challenge.
It's very challenging. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad that you thought I did a good job. That speaks to my ability in having grown in my writing style. So thank you for saying so.
Yeah, I won't go too much on it because I know I talked about it in the last video, but that was the sucker punch to me that got me sobbing when
Kirishima just wasn't getting it.
That was killing me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry. Love the little section with Shigaraki. Nothing else to say all that much except that I can relate to him a little bit. I too am having something akin to joy, knowing that the public is about to get a major blow when they learn of Kai's demise. Come on, man. I am interested in the girl that bumped into Shigaraki, though. I'm wondering what role she will play in the long run, but regardless if she ends up being a hero, villain, or even a vigilante, I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to like their character. We'll see, though.
I'm tired because you were reading it and I was reading along with you. I didn't see vigilante. I saw Vegemite.
Vegemite is like the devil's butter.
I know.
It's so gross.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
So another tangent on my end this time. For those of you who don't know what Vegemite is, it's basically like the leftover scrapings from beer vats after they've like flushed out all the liquid.
Like the brine.
Yeah.
Like the salt brine at the bottom.
It's so gross. I brought some back from like Australians grew up like I think I can see it being one of those things where like if you grew up eating it, you could like it. But as someone who didn't try it until he was 12 years old, that is like some of the most awful stuff I've ever eaten. I brought a jar back from Australia specifically to play pranks on family members. When I knew my family member was going to be over, my mom was like making sandwiches for them. I would like go through and like scrape a little bit of Vegemite on there so that they and I would keep track of which ones had it.
Oh no.
My favorite one was my mom's cousin like taking a bite out of it. I'm not sure if he was drunk yet or not, but he took a bite and he just did the biggest spit take I've ever seen. It was hilarious.
Gosh, brat, I never knew this.
He was yelling in Spanish something along the lines of, "What's wrong with this sandwich?" Although I'm pretty sure there was more colorful language being used.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I was a brat.
Sorry. That's where my brain is. That's a good thing I'm not reading out loud anymore. Vigilante.
Oh, man.
Vigilante.
So
Vigilante.
People are either going to like this character or absolutely despise what I do with them. I can't find anybody being an in-between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an extreme
I'm very
move
confident.
in the arc.
I'm very confident that people will like her. But it'll take some time.
It took me some time. I needed some backstory. Once I got some backstory, then I was sold.
Okay.
But until I got the backstory, I was like, no.
I was just sitting there. I was just like, this is one of my best ideas.
I was salty. Okay. All right. So if you guys are salty at first, I'm not gonna be surprised. Okay.
Yep. Okay. The last moment with Kodai and what I assume was heaven is a good little bit. It was honestly unnecessary, but I can't be mad at it. It's a very good last send-off to the character. I mean, I don't know, like, after all this, like, I'll argue against the term unnecessary because, like, for his character arc to come to a close here, I feel like it kind of would have been a disservice to just have the last scene with him choking to death on his own blood and not knowing if he was able to succeed or not.
It would be very Game of Thrones of you.
I've never read Game of Thrones, but from what I know of it, that sounds like something they would do. Yeah, no, like, he has been the main protagonist of the story up to this point, so I didn't want to leave him, like, not necessarily wanting, because obviously he wanted to live, but, like, he should have, in my opinion, it would have been a very big disservice to his character to leave him without some form of closure. So to know that he got to go to heaven where he belonged, I feel like was something that A, his character needed, and B, just me as the author needed to see. Like, I tried to do a lot of stuff for the story, but every now and again, there are some things in there where it's just like, I need to see this happen.
And
I'm not going to be happy with it.
You're also the type of through emotions. And I think that sometimes you've got to come around to a conclusion for yourself, if not for anybody else.
Yeah,
and I think there's also power in writing those things and not necessarily releasing them. But I think this one was worth releasing. Yeah, because it was at the end of a real heavy moment.
Yeah, there needed to be some levity at the end of this. Because again, you guys know I'm not a big fan of chapters or episodes that are just all one note. So I like I said, I feel like the story needed this, and I feel like I needed this. So there's my justification for putting that in. Cool. Another very long review, and it doesn't feel like I have a lot of criticisms more than I have thoughts. Regardless, I could tell you put your all in this chapter. I wish you and Becca a great day, Silver. Thanks, nice. Dude. Yeah. This is one of the chapters that I've legit. I'm honestly trying to think of a chapter that I've worked harder on, and I'm coming up on a blank right now.
You went over this one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, like this was like one of, if not the first thing I wrote for this story. It's like, this is what I've been working towards this whole time. Wow. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Silver 4700.
Yes. Thank you for your review.
All right. Last Robin.
All right. Do you want to take it, or do you want me to do it?
I will try.
All right.
I will try.
All right.
I got to get myself settled on my squeaky chair that's not quite as squeaky as yours. Okay. Last Robin. Well written. The Wicked Witch is dead. About time. Slow burn over. Good. Fight scenes are done. Good stuff. I'm sure we are in for some more sad times next chapter.
What is this?
That being said, I still don't like One for All being gone. It has a will of its own and honestly should have been passed back into Deku still.
Okay.
Good thought.
So
especially since they had the contact.
They did. Here's my argument to that, is that Kurai, yes, One for All would have gone back to Deku on its own. Allow me to clarify that. It definitely would have gone back to him on its own. The problem with that is that its will is, as I understand it, kind of secondary to the active will of the current user. So, like, One for All can't really override what Deku was doing at any given moment, unless, like, maybe he let them override what he's doing. Because, like, when Shinzo brainwashed him, like, he was like, brain is blank, then One for All can step in and take control of his body. I don't think that counts in this case because Kurai had an active will that he was trying to execute. And that was passing his quirk back into Deku. Or passing it on to Deku, sorry, not back into him. So, given that his will was being executed first and foremost, if One for All had done its own thing after the fact and gone back into Deku, you're going to have the same problem that Kai was having, in that those two quirks put together are going to kill him very quickly. Like, not as fast, because, you know, Kai already had one foot in the grave. But I do not think it would take very long for One for All and Energon put together, even in a healthy person. I don't think it would take very long to kill them.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, like, in the original, the quirk rejected Bakugo went back to Deku. Now, that being said, Kurai wouldn't have necessarily been rejected, but the quirk having a will for its own, like you said, would have definitely gone back into Deku. That being said, we have some dramatic irony because Kai does not know that it has a will of it. I mean, that it has the capability
to
go back. He has no idea.
He's operating under the assumption that once you got One for All, you know, and someone else
you
got it, and the person before you can't take it back. That's the assumption he's operating under. Yes,
because he's like, you know, why can't we give it back to All Might for a little bit? You know, that would be what he was thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so he, with his last dying breaths, is just all he can think is, I can't be the reason my best friend is without a quirk again. I can't be the reason anyone is without a quirk. And so without knowing that One for All would have gone back, he tries with all of his willpower to give anything back, to give his quirk back. And at the end, the thing that he's trying to do actually kicks everybody in the butt.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
So I'm actually glad that you don't like it, because if y'all were just being like, I do a lot of protests about your guys' criticisms towards my chapters, but this is different in the sense that, like, I'm actually kind of intrigued and glad that someone disagrees with a plot point that I have implemented. Because that's just different than picking on my character doing something or other. This is a disagreement with the story itself, which I quite like because it shows that y'all have your own opinions, like genuinely about how the story should have gone, and you're not agreeing with what I did. And I'm glad to see that, because I would hope that I'm able to write a story where I'm able to stir up some dissension on some important points.
Anyway, let's finish Last Robin's review, because we kind of cut this paragraph off in the middle.
Sorry.
So he was talking about how, One for All has a will of its own. Its job is never done while All for One is still alive, which was made pretty clear no matter what the users may think. It's definitely not time for the cycle to end. And if you're going to do some sort of Energon pass or Deku amplification, I don't see why One for All couldn't have passed. The loss of One for All will also knock out a lot of future plot points and motivations for the characters. I hope you know what you're doing with it.
All right, so despite your disagreement with the plot point, I do know what I'm doing. I can promise you that. Whether or not you guys will like what I do with it might be another thing, but I do know what I'm doing.
Yep. So it's just, again, that's
you gotta give it time.
Yeah. So, well, it was wild though, because the first time we read your review, because I kind of had the same thought initially, but I was thinking, but it's that dramatic irony, because we know it has a will of its own.
They don't.
And they
can only act based on what they know.
And because, and like I said, his last act of trying to save Deku is actually a major mistake on his part, because he should have just let it be, because One for All would have gone right back to him and it would have been okay. But instead, all of a sudden, Deku has possibly gotten a different quirk that he has no idea how to use. All right. I do like Kudai's death and how you pulled off the fight. But I will admit I am a bit concerned about the future of the narrative. Again, well done on the writing. Yes. Rest in peace, Kudai. Yes. We will be holding a candlelight vigil in hell for his soul.
What the heck, man?
In lieu of flowers, please send a brutal reminder of death to his once girlfriend,
Leave Mina out of this.
Vegetable brother, and jailed mother.
What did they ever do to you?
The after party will be held in the Discord general chat, where its residents will celebrate the death.
What is wrong with you people?
We need to have like a death day party now.
What the?
We're going to make a cake next year.
What the? Oh my. Y'all are going to make an anniversary out of this. I can see that.
They are. I know it.
What is wrong with you people?
From all of our corners of the world in the Discord, we'll be sending pictures of our cakes. All right. Deadwood getting...
Send pictures of me crying in the corner.
Deadwood getting good omaki bits. A haiku about what I'm not even touching at this point, because we've had this debate 10 times.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm not touching this. Is Shigaraki a clone? I do not think so.
Okay, whether or not he is a clone in the original canon, that can be up for debate. In this version, it's a clone, and that is definitely going to play into effect later on. So he's a clone.
Are you okay? You're getting real hyped up here.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Working
Maybe I need some calming jasmine tea.
I think you've been working through some stuff because you've been harassed by children and a grouchy wife all day. All right, sorry guys, he's taking it out on you.
They're taking their stuff out on me.
It's all good.
This is a symbiotic experience.
It is. Thank you, Last Robin. Joe Clone. I'm gonna give Joe. I'm gonna give this Joe a turn. Okay. Joe Clone, because my brain can only take doses.
All right. Joe Clone said, and thank you, Last Robin, for your review, by the way. Joe Clone now says, "It's done. See you, Guardian Hero." So you're telling me that not only does One for All actually cease to exist, but Deku now gets Ignika to replace it? That's exactly what I'm telling you. I always thought that the whole point of One for All was to defeat All for One. So without it, that just makes things more bleak than ever. Yeah, hold on to that thought, man. Because again, the characters can only operate on what they know, not necessarily what I know. That's a difficult thing to maintain sometimes. It's like, I know this, but do they? They are separate people. They do not know everything that I do. Otherwise, the story would be over real quick. hoping against hope for any light at the end of this yucky tunnel because our main torch finally extinguished and we're all getting the yellows out here. Stop it. I'll explain that one later. Yeah, I'm still waiting for an explanation on that, man. Or if you explained it to me, I forgot. And if so, I'm very sorry. It's been a busy couple of weeks. But when is it never not? I'm sorry, dude. What?
When is it never not?
Moving on.
Oh, wow. A double negative. Sorry, continue. I always have to throw some Weird Al in when I can. Okay.
The fact that it was Bakugo who was the first to mourn so strongly made it so hard to take. But it was just so perfect thematically. Thanks, dude. Then All Might was just as sorrowful, especially when Deku told him what he did. The most whiplash I got was from Kirishima. Poor thing was trying to lighten the mood until he saw how much darkness there was. And we haven't even gotten to Ida and Mina yet. I'm most curious about how each one of them is going to take this massive loss. I'm very concerned for them. We'll see next chapter, I guess. See you then. Yeah, man, like, forget the next chapter. It's like, this is going to be a lot of sad stuff happening for the next... Yeah. Deadwood, meet Matar's carving knife. He's going to turn you into a monument to be gawked at and then pooped on by pigeons until you rot like the trees you always do. Also, hey, Light Rush, where were you the last time we saw you?
Okay, I genuinely... Because I know who Light Rush is in your book. I genuinely can't remember who he is in your fanfics.
Well, for this part, he's just a commentator on the series because I need somebody to replace Kurai.
I know, but who is Joe Clone referencing?
The Light Rush that appears in the Omaki section.
I know, but which Light Rush appears in the Omaki session? Is it...
It's a dragon.
Is it the dragon?
Yes,
from the book.
Yes.
Okay.
From the book or from...
Is he a dragon in your fanfic?
Yes, he's a dragon in my fanfic.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sorry, guys. I don't know his fanfiction as well as you guys do.
That's okay.
I'm a bad wife.
Don't make me laugh when I'm drinking water. I'm going to spit. This is expensive microphone. Please don't make me do that.
Sorry.
It's okay. I love you.
All right. Thank you,
Where was he the last time we saw him? Red Swordsman series, I think. Because he had him as a companion.
He was this companion.
He was in the story. In the story, he didn't talk.
Yeah,
but he was there.
I was going to say, he wasn't sentient in Red Swordsman.
No.
Okay.
No. Oh, boy. Another novel.
Oh, Silly Kira.
Silly Kira.
Hello.
Do you want to take this one?
I will try.
Do you want to alternate each paragraph?
Let's maybe do that.
Okay.
Because, yeah. I can't even pretend that I didn't cry for this. No sweating eyeballs, no dust in my eye, no excuses. I'm just crying.
So I went back and looked some of his other reviews, and normally whenever he's not crying, he's like that's what he's referencing. He's doing something else. He or she. I think this is a guy.
No, sure, not sure.
Not sure.
Sorry if we had just assumed your gender person. All right, sorry. I'm gonna start with my thoughts on Bakugo for this chapter. First off, he was used in a manner that I could not have predicted, but more than appreciated at the same time. I was expecting him to still get one for all, like in the movie, and that Kai would team up with him and Deku for the final part of the battle. I pictured the final Detroit smash being the finishing move, like on Island, only with Ground Zero instead of All Might.
Ooh, that would have been cool.
What I did not expect was for Blasty McSplode to carry the emotional gut punches home for the audience.
Yeah, bet you weren't. Yeah. I'm glad that nobody expected that, and then I was able to pull that off because that was a lot of fun for me. Okay, so I'll take this next paragraph. I love that, like in the film, he wanted to go back into the fight and finish things his way, but the moment he realized what role he had to play in the grand scheme of things, he accepted it. No blustering, no blinding pride, no vain attempts to soothe his own injured ego. He knew that unless Kai's treasure was protected, he wouldn't be able to give the fight his all and defeat this new threat. I like how he calls Mina Kai's treasure. Like that's real cute. That's real cute. I'm kind of regretting not hearing this term sooner because Kurai definitely would have used it at some point to try and embarrass Mina. Whether or not it would have succeeded,
that's
who knows?
All the corn. Oh, that's almost painful. Okay.
Yeah, but she's all about that kind of thing. But to have, like, we've seen a couple times, like, when the tables are flipped on her, she kind of freezes up a little bit, and it's funny.
Yeah, it's rare that we see her squirm. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, sorry. I also loved how even though he makes the conscious decision to let Kurai go, knowing that it's what he has to do, the decision tears him up once the other boy actually dies and he is left alone to feel the weight of what has come about. In spite of the maturity and progress we've seen from him so far, it's almost like he falls back into that old pattern of denial when he's trying to resuscitate Kai, despite knowing there is really no chance for him to live, even if he could somehow succeed in getting his heart going again. To me, seeing characters faced with something so devastating that they can do nothing but fall back on childhood habits, the things that have sustained and remained with them as far back as they can remember, is the true measure of just how badly something has hurt them.
Ugh. Yeah, ouch.
Like, honestly, like, that didn't even occur to me, like, while I was having him act the way that he did. Like,
that's wild.
Like, it just felt like what he would do, like, the whole childhood aspects, things like, honestly, I should have been more aware of that as going into, like, I just you
were thinking more like
what was happening in the moment. Yeah. Like, where was he at the moment?
Okay. Because, yeah, like we've said a lot, is we haven't seen a lot of character development for Bakugo, so it's nice to see this vulnerable moment. It's
been different character development. I don't want to say that there hasn't been any, because, like, we had the bit where, like, one of my favorite bits that I wrote in this series has been when Bakugo got his name, Ground Zero, because Mona got blown the hell up.
Yeah.
And nobody knows how it happened. Yeah. And Kurai's just kind of watching across the room, like, at what Bakugo does while everybody's telling it. And at the end of the night, he's just like, it was you. And Bakugo's just like, kind of shrugged, doesn't really confirm or deny it. Like, that was one of my favorite bits to write for the series.
Just does a very anime, and then walks away.
Yep. No, because he feels like he owes Kurai.
Yeah.
Like, in more ways than one, because, like, Kurai literally had his arm ripped off to save Bakugo's life, and then Kurai's dad died to get him away from the league, to save him.
Yeah.
And in Bakugo's head, like, that's not something he can just ignore. Like, he owes him. Yeah. So, like, there has been some measures of character development. It's not been a whole lot on the screen time, but I would like to think that I portrayed it as important when it did happen.
Yeah. His last scene with All Might and Kirishima was equally heart-wrenching, though for different reasons. After being forced to accept that he failed and nothing will bring Kurai back, it felt like he was torn between wanting to spare his friend the same pain for as long as he could and wanting to shut Kirishima up so that he wouldn't have to keep thinking about it. Even in spite of those complex emotions, what needed to be portrayed for a scene like this one, your handling of Bakugo's breakdown was excellent. As I said before, this was not how I expected him to be used, but as usual, your ideas play out to be far more impactful than the ones in my head. Oh, that's kind.
Thank you for saying so. Yeah.
Deku's role in this chapter was surprisingly minimal. I don't disagree with your handling of him. I just expected there to be more. I don't know what I'm really saying here, so I'll move on.
Let's see. While there wasn't much of his presence in this chapter, the parts where he was used were incredibly effective. His conversation with Kurai as they stand together certainly mirrors the one in the movie to a degree, but the differences in their dialogue make this scene for me. I loved how when Kurai asks him the why of it all, Deku really comes into his own by saying that while he still admires and respects All Might, he has finally come to understand that he doesn't need to be him, unlike in the original where Deku merely talks about how he and Bakugo are not so different. That dialogue is a truly beautiful way to show how this Deku is different from the canon version and how his friendship with Kurai has changed him up to now. It's a small difference, but a very important one that I really loved seeing brought to life here. I'm glad you picked up on that because, like, I was really trying to go for that in that scene. Like, obviously I'm not going to gloss over that scene just because it played out similarly because there are differences and those differences are so important in showing how Deku has changed here. So I'm glad that some of you guys are picking up on that.
I'll come back to this in a moment, but the part where Kudai called him a brother really brought a lump into my throat. Deku had only ever had his mother as a positive influence in his life up to his meeting All Might, and then the friends he made at UA. There are a lot of, quote, dad might jokes to be thrown around, but I don't really know that either Deku or All Might could put their relationship down as a father-son deal, though that might just be me. Point is, Deku doesn't really have any family other than his mom, so to have Kudai claim him as a brother right before the end, to have Kudai give him something that he's never really had and maybe not even realized that he needed was indescribably touching to me.
I know that part hit you pretty hard too.
Yeah. And I mean, one can argue that Bakugo is a brother to him in a way, even though he's, very much a bully. But,
he was abusive to Deku for a long time.
Extremely abusive.
Yeah.
Extremely, not okay. I think we tend to downplay how poorly Bakugo treated Deku at the beginning of the show.
Because of how far he's come now.
But at the same time, because different story, Kudai has become a brother in a much more wholesome way.
Because he doesn't. Him and Deku and Kudai don't have any negative history between them. Mm-hmm. Certainly they've argued and not agreed on everything. Yeah. But
I mean, I think
there's nothing to poison their relationship from the beginning.
There's a couple types of quote brotherhoods. Mm-hmm. There's the super how do you say, at odds relationship that you can have if you have a sibling that's very different from you, and there's just a lot of tension and rivalry, and then later on
Sasuke and Itachi kind of
thing. But then later on, as you become older and come into maturity and have other relationships, you come to appreciate and respect one another, right? Then there's the other type of brotherhood where you meet someone later on down the line who is like-minded, and you bond over being like-minded and sharing troubles together, right? Yeah. And so you kind of have that duality of those two types of brotherhood here, in my opinion.
Okay. If you could liken Deku and Kudai's relationship to another, like from an anime or something, is there one that you can think of off the top of your head? Because I know we've had Kudai and Akarui compared to the Elric brothers a couple times here, and that makes me laugh because I'm like, I love their dynamic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
If you can't, it's all good.
Oh gosh,
we can
I'll have to come back to that one because it'll take me too long to think. But I think
Anyway, there's got to be something out there. Just a thought from mine. But let's see. The interaction with All Might after the battle also got me in the feels big time. I don't know if it's because the stakes are so much higher this time around with One For All being gone. Holy crap. But I'm glad that his mentor didn't condemn his choice, even though he easily could have, and may have even been justified in doing so. We kind of talked about this earlier. Yeah. All Might wouldn't do that. I'll be very interested to see how Deku and everyone else does with Kudai being dead once they've actually had time for the news to sink in.
You'll have time to process. All right.
Yeah. All right, now, Kai, the guardian hero, the guy who stood his ground. What a send-off you gave him, and deservedly so.
Aww.
Thank you for saying that.
It's nice to hear that from someone.
Thank you.
First off, holy crap, having All For One and Energon in his body together.
One for all.
Oh, sorry, One For All.
There we go.
Together in his body must have hurt. I'm kind of surprised that only his metal arm blew off instead of him pulling a Vegeta versus Boo. Ouch. Though he's something to be said of the poetry of his brother's aid carrying him right up until the finish line for his final battle, and only then giving out. Kind of like Akarui himself helping him right up until the absolutely nothing can help him anymore.
Dude, you just gave me an idea for a sketch.
And that literally just brought a little lump to my throat.
I'm kind of seeing Kudai going in for the final attack and kind of like Akarui reaching out with him. The reason that I think of this is because there's that bit where Gohan is fighting Cell. Mm-hmm. And the spirit of his father is with him as he's making the final push. That's kind of the parallel I'm drawing here.
My heart.
Oh man, I might have to do that sketch at some point, dude. Maybe I'll do that for the anniversary of his death or something.
Maybe. Kudai's farewell to Mina was probably what started the waterworks for me, because he can't actually say goodbye. Even if his final moment, he can't have the comfort of having her close to him, and all he could do is basically leave well wishes for her before going to confront a horrifically painful death. I mean, if I read the whole thing right, his body was basically doing what Nines has been doing the whole time, except way faster. Just ow.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't a nice way to get Not only is he bleeding out from multiple stab wounds, his lungs are filling up with blood. His cells are splitting apart from how overloaded they are. He is in pain from this.
Ugh, the conversation with Deku.
I'll take this
sorry.
part.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. The conversation with Deku on his end was so fulfilling to me. Like Bakugo, even though he's made his choice here, he is still being torn up by the ramifications that will result from it. He knows that he had to take One for All to beat 9, but he still loathes the fact because of him, 5 people no longer have their rightful abilities. Mm-hmm. The 3-unit family that made Energon originally, Lemillion, and now Deku. I loved that Deku took the moment that he had to reassure him that it was okay for things to end this way. But even with that, he refused to let it be the case. He gave his friend not only a sense of belonging when he could, but also his own power, so that he could continue on his dream to become a great hero. There wasn't even a sense of him trying to pass on his own hopes and goals to Deku, just a wish for his brother to go and live the life that he always wanted. I love that because he is operating under the assumption that One for All can't go back to Deku, he refuses to rest until he is sure that he can be a hero anyway, odds be damned. Okay, so a few people, so it's interesting because like a few people are understood what I was trying to say, but then there's others who,
yeah, that's okay.
I really gotta go back and figure out like why it's clear to some people and why it wasn't to other, like, oh, this is gonna rip me up.
That's just what it is being an artist. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, something that always comes up is it what the author intended, or is it what the audience sees and interprets, right? When you're reading a historical document, you have to be careful and say, we need to look at this in the context of what the author is saying in this first-hand document. But when you're reading fiction, I believe personally that the author has to have an open grasp to a certain extent, because the whole purpose of fiction and art is to allow someone else to experience something, and they may not experience it the way you intend them to. That's why you have all of these debates on J.K. Rowling going in and trying to change her original canon, when people are like, no, this is the way I see it, this is the way I have accepted it. And then when people get disillusioned with her as a person, they start trying to change the canon for their own, and so, but then thus you have fan fiction. And that's the whole purpose. It's art.
I think
it's
Harry Potter is the most written like topic of fan fiction.
I wouldn't be surprised, because I mean that's
like
the
on
thing.
all the websites.
It's one of the most readable fictional stories of our generation. So it makes sense that it's the most fan fictioned story, to make up a word. But I personally, I think.
Wow. So like I just pulled up like not even dividing them into categories or anything, right? The closest one is Naruto at 438,000 plus stars. Guess how many Harry Potter has?
No idea.
Just spitball a number. Naruto is the closest.
It had like 400 something thousand. I don't know, like a million.
Not that high. 843,000 plus.
Dang.
Stories on fanfiction.net are dedicated to Harry Potter. That's not even counting crossovers and stuff.
That's insane. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think, when you're reading, you have to think about what you're reading. Is it fiction, or is it a piece of, is it a document that's talking about something that happened, right? And of course, when looking at documents, you have to think about narrative and, the person who's telling it. Is this first person?
Is this a secondhand account?
And is this person trying to convince you of something that didn't actually happen because they want to get you to think a certain way? So of course, there's all of that. And so you have to be critical even with first person documents. But that being said, when we're talking about fiction, the author has to have an open grasp at a certain point and realize it is okay to be misunderstood.
Yes.
And they are still escaping into this little fantasy world that I've created.
I know.
And
it's like, don't take it personally, like me getting hyped up and stuff. Like, I'm not like actually pissed at any of you. I'm just like,
he's just sad that what he envisioned isn't getting across the way he wanted it to. But that's the thing.
That's part of me releasing this stuff to you guys.
Being an artist and an educator, I had to learn this, because in art school, you go through critiques. And when I first started going through critiques, I didn't really take things personally because I was used to going through them in high school. I was like, yeah, it's good for me, whatever. Like, they see it that way. And at first, I would get a little bit, like, annoyed that people were putting their own spin on it. And then I realized, I was like, they're enjoying it in a way I didn't even intend. And that's kind of cool. Like, and then eventually it got to a point where I wouldn't even put a meaning behind something. I would just pull something out of my butt and show up to class the next day. And then it would be actually awful because the people who worked really, really hard to get a point conveyed, people wouldn't get it at all. But then I would pull something out of my butt, and then the entire class would spend an hour trying to pick apart the meaning behind it. And I'd just smile and nod because I never came up with a meaning, and I was just letting them come up with it, right? And then by the same token, as a teacher, I can sit down and have a conversation about copyright and about the history of graffiti, the legality of it, the ethics of it. And the only thing the kids are going to take away is that I let a bad word slip out when I was trying to make a point go across to them.
Oh, no.
You know? And so it's, you know, people are never going to come away with the exact story that you intended.
Well, yeah, that's why I try to read the story to you, because I need to try to at least have like a glimpse of, and that's why I open this up to reviews and why I respond to them, is because I want to know how people are interpreting what I've put out, because I can't step out of my own head. The closest I can get to that is like writing another character handling a situation differently than I would. But even then, like, you're going to find my fingerprints on it. Like, I am incapable of completely stepping away from my perspective of things. So this is important.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the review. Do you want me to take it? Or?
You go for it.
Okay. Side note, the artwork for Kai as he utilizes the varying abilities of Energon while enhanced by One for All was breathtaking. Wow.
Aww.
Wow. Breathtaking.
Kind.
That's very kind of you. Like, I'm going to have a hard time fitting my head through the door after this. Careful here, dude.
He's still working on his proportions. He's getting better.
Yes.
His depth and his shading, they're improving. Sometimes I walk in and I'm like, what is happening with that guy's face? But he's getting really, he's genuinely better at digital art at this point than I am, so I can't judge at all.
That would not be without you. But I would be still doodling stick figures maybe in a notebook.
But I could smoke you with an ink drawing.
Absolutely you could. I'm not even going to try on that. No way.
Sorry. Continue.
Although, I don't know. There was that one time when we had that poll. It's like, who had the better gender bend?
Oh, shut up. I think it was more about interpretation than aesthetics.
Like we're talking about here.
But whatever. I'm still salty about that, you guys. You guys let me down. Straight up. Straight up let me down. If you haven't seen, Joe will have to share that link to that poll. It was ridiculous. Anyway, continue.
Sorry. All right. Sorry. I'll continue. That's just still funny to me. It was so detailed, and I could just feel the power from each form and technique. Of course, you also had to stop at the pieces of my broken heart with his death in Bakugo's arms. Didn't you? Dude, you know what I'm about. Yeah, of course I did. The line that contains his death gave me chills. With all the build-up and drawn-out descriptions of what was physically happening to him, I expected the narrative delivery of his end to be equally meticulous. So to have that single sentence describe his actual death was truly jarring. It was nearly a blink and you'll miss it deal, which is not how I would have thought such a monumental moment would have come to pass. But you madman, you did it. I'm trying to, let's see. I know the line. The line basically ends with his body went limp and died. And that was it. And then there was a scene transition.
Ouch.
Yeah. I like how someone else described it as whiplash.
It be that way sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why am I laughing? That's not something to laugh at.
Everybody else is. Why not?
Anyways. Also, One for All is gone. Well, shit. This is going to be a problem. Yeah, it is.
Physically, Energon might make Deku a match for Shigaraki when the time comes, but unless a vestige of Kudai exists within the quirk, I don't really see there being a way for him to prevent All for One from taking the quirk. Although Now that I'm thinking about it, a vestige of Kudai and Deku's head really has major dramatic and comedic appeal. Please let this be a thing.
Well,
we're just not going to answer that
question.
question.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that, man. It's a funny thought. It's a fun thought.
It is definitely a fun thought.
But yeah.
Another side note, who's the girl? The one that gave clone Shigaraki the stink eye. That one. Who is that? Is she someone from Ruby brought in for this? I'd almost guess Raven, but the eye color is wrong.
Interesting thought.
You're killing me, man. You kill our guardian hero, and without any time to take a breath, you tease me with a new major player in this narrative. Stop it. I can only take so much.
No.
Don't actually stop it. I want to know what happens next.
Oh, okay,
I look forward to seeing how this has classmates deal with this. Mina, Deku, Ida, Bakugo, and Blake in particular. I was really deserves to have that much, honestly. He's had a really hard life up until now. He deserves to rest in peace. It was a good life, I think, but not an easy one. So rest in peace, Kudai. You will be missed, but well remembered. I hope.
Well, I don't know how everybody else in the reviews is going to remember him, but...
See you in the next chapter, Mataris. As always, I look forward to what you have in store.
Well, thank you for saying so. Yeah.
That was a very kind review. I think that one really aligned with how I felt the most of this batch, because there's usually somebody who kind of sees it similar to me, and Silikita I think hit the nail on the head as far as the way I read it. So thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much for the review. Really appreciate it. This next review by Treadly Tayao is actually on an earlier chapter, but I'm gonna leave it in here because there's something that I want to address on it, just as kind of funny to me. So they write, quote, Mina, I promise I won't die until all my hair turns gray. I'm going to be an old man by the time I join my ancestors. End quotes. The foreshadowing, man. So, yeah, the foreshadowing, because he wasn't an old man. He got that wrong. But if you go look at the artwork where he's dead in Bakugo's arms, you can, like, there's a lot of blood and stuff, but you can see all of his hair is white or gray or silver, whatever the description was. So yes, there was some foreshadowing. He got it right. He didn't completely lie, even if it was unintentional.
Thank you.
Treadly Tayao.
Tayao.
That is a really funny profile picture. I kind of like it.
I like that profile picture.
That's a funny one. I don't know what that's from.
I don't either.
I don't know if, like, maybe he drew that.
It looks like something he might have drawn.
Yeah. If that's a drawing, good job, man. If not, please tell me where that image came from.
That's a fun chibi.
That's a funny image.
And
one last novel from Endeavor to be All Might.
All right. I feel like I'm trying to remember. I feel like I really enjoy this guy's reviews.
This one's like all lumped together.
Yeah,
Do you want me to just take this one?
I'm going to let you take this one. Okay. My brain is fatigued.
All right. So, spoilers for the story and the review. Skip ahead if you want to read for fresh eyes. Thank you for doing that, dude. Yeah, thank you for putting spoiler warnings in your reviews. So, the Guardian hero meets his end. As I had mentioned before, I really thought that if this villain would be the one to kill him, it could only be done after Energon had been taken away from Kurai. So while my core idea proved to be sound, your execution was significantly different to my predictions, which I always enjoy. No fun reading a story that can be easily predicted, after all. I'm not sure if it's because we're coming off of the Class A versus B arc when Nabu Island happens, but the first two chapters on the island felt a little dry to me. They weren't badly written, I just wanted things to happen. Yeah, when looking at the story as a whole, I can understand how that would come across. Like, yeah. Sorry. I'll move on. Don't get me wrong, it's great to see where the class dynamics are at right now, giving us a base reference for the changes that are sure to come about. But it felt as though you may have been stalling just a bit. I understand wanting to give the characters, and by your extension yourself, a break from life-threatening action sequences where they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, just not when it's 4 full chapters in a row. All right, man, I get it. I'll try to... Oh, man.
Finding that balance, man, between your wife having too much action and everybody else not enough.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I can't make everybody happy.
Well, and you got to figure out who your target audience is. You are skilled at writing action sequences, and that's tends to be the kind of people who find your stuff. So, But it is good to have some downtime, so it's
I'm
not
trying
constant.
to yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I'm trying to broaden my palette. But all right, sorry, I'll move on. All that being said, this is honestly the only negative I can bring myself to make concerning this arc. All right, cool. Thanks, dude. And considering how long this review is, I'm surprised there's not more. Good grief, you guys really brought it with these. Let's see. Please don't take that the wrong way. I'm glad to see these reviews.
It's great. He's been having a blast reading these all week.
Let's see. Even among those starting chapters, there were bits I certainly appreciated a great deal, such as Kurai being forced to acclimate to his new renown among the islanders. It's nice to see him handling things like a rational human being instead of an over-troped anime protagonist. His interactions with Katsumo were very sweet and reminded me of his time with Eri, which I suppose I'm not going to be seeing any more of. Bummer. Yeah, he'd mentioned in an earlier review that he wanted to see more interactions with Eri. Sorry, dude. His reaction to Maharu's prank seemed a little over the top to me until he explained why he did what he did. Was it a little forced? Maybe, but not so much that it took me out of the story. My thought of the matter is that if something like that really did happen, he would certainly do whatever he could to keep another kid from making the same mistake. There was also the underlying aspect that he must have felt about someone disrespecting law enforcement so badly, even if the offender was a child. Yeah, don't do that around Kurai. Kurai doesn't do well with that. Kurai seems pretty touchy when it comes to the subject matter, so I can't say it was out of character for him. So yeah, don't do that. Don't do that around Kurai. To take a pause from the review for a moment, that definitely comes from me. You guys know I come from a long line of military members as well as law enforcement. So that for me is a touchy subject whenever people
You're also a
speak
very
badly on it.
intense person.
Yeah.
And something I've found is that, every once in a while that intensity of your personality comes out in your characters, and it catches people off guard who don't know you. Okay. For sure, because you have, like, how do I put this? Almost like how in anime there's certain characters who just have really over animated extreme responses to things. That's how you are in real life.
Oh no.
It's hard. That's
so like you see like the red tick marks showing up over my head, like lightning bolts flashing behind me, kind of thing.
And people also tend to think that you're very angry when you're not, because you're very loud and you're very animated. And I've watched multiple times in social situations where you'll get like really animated about something and someone thinks you're mad, and I'm like, no, that is not angry Joseph. That's just really hyper excited Joseph.
I remember a specific incident at work when I was working at Dion's, when I was working at the pizza place, where to me it was just out of nowhere my manager starts going off on me because I scared a customer apparently. I had yelled at them or whatever. I was like, I don't understand. I was like, I haven't yelled at anybody today. She was like, then why did I get this customer coming? I'm like, you honest to goodness haven't seen me yell. I'm like, I'm not saying this to be rude. I'm like, maybe there's some misinterpretation happening on my end or their end, but I haven't yelled at anybody today. And she's like, they're saying that you did. I'm like, may I please give you a demonstration of what it is when I yell at somebody so we can have a reference for this later on down the line? And she was like, yeah, fine. So we went in the back. She was like, fine, yell at me. And I got into pissed mode and I yelled at her.
Oh my goodness.
And like by the end of it, like she was like kind of like, she was really pale, and she was like, she was like, that's your yelling? I'm like, yes, that was my yelling. I promise you I didn't yell at the customer. And she was like, okay, you need to work on toning down everything a little bit. But I believe that you didn't intend to yell at this customer, so she's like, I won't write you up, just you need to work on this.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, okay. So from then on, like whenever I was at work, I did my absolute best to make sure to keep my voice and enthusiasm in general just down as much as I could.
Yeah, and I think it's partially your family because you have a very loud family.
Oh yeah.
And it's also partially just your personality because even within your loud family, you're like one of the most over the top with the animated drama, right? And so I think that's something to just keep in mind as somebody who knows him. But as a writer, you have to think about, okay, is it a normal response for this character? Now, this might be my normal response.
I mean, it felt like it was for him.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to make sure because...
if nothing else, given all the intense stuff that he's had to go through.
Anyway, I think we've hashed out the whole response to the kid thing quite a bit, so we can move on from that.
Sorry. We'll move on from that. Let's see. The addition of Switch to Nine's crew felt natural to me. I don't know if that's because of the lack of backstory in the original group, other than Chimera, but her capabilities and personality both seem to fit the bill for an anarchist. Now, allow me to say that when you delivered on the action, you delivered. There was not one battle in these last 3 chapters that I did not enjoy. Yes! All right, good. As you were saying, like, battles where I tend to focus a little bit. Because, like, it's hard to make battles flow well in writing. Like, because we're so, like, a lot of this audience, and even me, like, we're so used to, like, being able to see battles happen a certain way. So to translate that to writing is very difficult for me. So I'm glad at least a few people enjoyed it. Yeah. Let's see. The altered rosters for Class 1A's first encounter with the villains were well adjusted to accommodate both Kodai and the girls from Team Ruby.
With the villains.
With the villains?
With the villains.
Villains.
I know.
Did I say villains?
You said villains. We're going to have a new thing in the Discord with Will.
Danke.
It's going to be all of Will's minions. That's what we're going to say. Okay.
Anyways, Weiss taking Nasty Great Boy's place not only made for a better matchup, I was glad to see her get to assume something of a leadership role like she's always wanted on some level. Also, her starting attitude of just being done with the villain before the fight even began was hilarious. I honestly had expected it to be Kodai who fought Mummy since he is Great Boy's far superior replacement, but I like this way much better. Well, I would hope that Kodai is seen as Great Boy's far superior replacement, but I'm glad. Thank you for saying so. I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's very hard to make a character better than Great Boy, but like that's a really low bar.
Very low bar. That is the lowest of bars. That bar is on the floor.
That bar like dug through the floor and kept going.
It's a sewage pipe.
Yes. I like that. Side note, if Weiss and Bakugo do become a thing, because I'm definitely picking up on some tension there, he'd better treat her like the ice queen she is. I know I've said that I don't care for shipping nonsense, but damn it, I'm still a sucker for tsunderes, and them always being played off as either a joke or an afterthought for the harem protag gets really old really fast for me. The battle with Switch truly threw me for a loop, enough that I felt as though I had suffered plot progression whiplash. I was so focused on Kodai's powers being measured up to 9s that it never even occurred to me that one of his minions could take the hero down. I almost put up a review following that chapter based on that fact alone, but I decided to hold out until the battle was over so I could deliver a more comprehensive summary on the arc as a whole. Thanks, dude.
I love that people put this much thought into their feedback. It just blows me away. I love it. I mean, sorry, continue.
I'm glad that people are that invested into the story. Let's see. Seeing Kodai continue to be a nerd even as he lay probably dying was really funny to me. I know it's supposed to be a very grave moment.
As I Lay Dying, very good band.
I also love that he uses the word grave here. I know it's supposed to be a very grave moment in which they're doing everything that they can to keep him alive, but even before Ashido brings up Star Wars, he's already getting pissed off about being taken down by a Sasuke-like ability. Though it's not as though he has any room to complain, tossing around a raw Sen Shuriken like he did.
True.
Fair. I'll allow that. I kind of like to think that it was his desire to show off his new ability that led to him being wounded the way that he was. Had he chosen to utilize basic instinct right then, his enhanced reflexes might have allowed him to evade or at least minimize any wounds Switch dealt or arranged for him to receive. Alternatively, his divine eye would have let him keep track of her whereabouts at any given moment, allowing him to at least keep his teammates in the loop as to Switch's location so that they could take her down instead of having to wonder where she was every few seconds and then having to constantly readjust their battle stratagem. Instead, he saw a relatively low-level villain and decided that he would get some target practice in with it. Given that he had just come off of defeating a Black Nomu, a lot of villains probably would have looked that way to him after the fact. It's not even that his confidence wasn't well earned. He just let it turn into arrogance at a very unfortunate time. He wasn't even being a prick about his capabilities or bragging about how easy this would be for him, unlike what Bakugo has been known to do. He got down to business, did what he could to mess with the villain's head, and started fighting without pulling any punches. He was just throwing right hooks when he should have been going for her Achilles tendon or shins.
Yep.
That type/level of hubris is pretty realistic writing considering the mentality of a teenager.
I mean, it tends to be the unexpected that really gets people. I mean, first thing that comes to mind, Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin. Like, he was an absolute legend. He knew what he was doing. He was a professional, and it was a freak accident that he passed, right?
Yep.
Totally crazy. So it's like, and Kudai, he's a kid still. Like, he's super powerful. He's learned a lot. He's
worked hard to master that power, too.
But also, like, freak accidents happen. And he's not perfect. He's a human being just like anybody else.
Honestly, like, I don't know if this is my own hubris playing into this, but, like, him mentioning Basic Instinct and the Divine Eye, like, as he's bringing these points up, as I was reading that, I was like, oh, man, Kudai definitely could have done that.
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about it.
Yep.
I was just like, I needed the scene to go this way, and I didn't even consider the alternatives. That was probably poorly done on my part.
But even
that's my bad.
Is Kudai going to have the time to sit and think about that in the heat of battle?
No, but like, also, it's like, he really was looking at her like a low-level villain. He's like, oh, okay, she teleports. Cool, I can deal with this. And yeah, he's kind of, like, whether or not he's doing it on purpose, he was kind of being a show-off, and it came to bite him.
Yep.
Or stab him. In this case. I'm sorry, I'm not that funny. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I'll have to, I'm gonna have to be way more aware of stuff going forward.
Well, that's what happens when you give someone 20 superpowers.
You're supposed to be on my side in it. Y'all have corrupted my wife. I hope you're happy.
I promise I'm not mad at you guys. I just haven't been in this Discord because I'm exhausted and life is hard.
Let's see, where was I? I more or less expected Kudai's recovery period to be glossed over in favor of getting to the strategy meeting, but she found a couple of ways to keep the time very interesting. Mina and Iida butting heads because of their worry for Kudai bleeding into other issues is something that I have seen all too often in high-pressure situations. That made me cringe not because it was bad writing, but because I could envision some similar scenarios from my own life experiences all too easily. Though admittedly with lower stakes than trying to keep a friend alive after he staved off a terrorist cell.
Well, I would hope so.
I would hope so, yeah.
Even so, when you can relate, that's a good thing because the story's doing its job.
It's not good that that's happened to you, but I'm glad that you're able to empathize. Let's see. Blake's breakdown also took me by surprise. Not that it happened necessarily, but that the level of her mental deterioration had progressed as far as it had. Of course, once I went back and took another look over the course of the story with the scenes that involved her, it became far more apparent as to how/why that would be. Still not a fan of the romance aspects of stories, for the most part. Damn you, you more or less warned me around to caring about Ashido and Kurai's dynamic and just in time to kill him off. Maybe it's because I have a morbid curiosity as to what his loss will do to Mina, but now it seems that we are going to have another unknown love interest being made to suffer in silence. Wonder when and how that's going to boil over. Wait for it. The fact that Kudai survived the stabbing made me start to question whether or not I could be right about Nine being the one to take him out. But once he went to be alone so that he can make his recording, I felt a sense of simultaneous satisfaction and sadness. It's cool to know that I was at least partially right, but again, I'm also glad to be wrong, while also knowing that it's time for Kudai's time to end. It's been a very long time coming, certainly, but I'm sure that the next few chapters, at the very least, will be heartbreaking for the characters to endure. You got no idea, man. Anyways, Akarui in particular. Yeah, poor Akarui, man. I'm surprised more people haven't brought him up.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody loves him.
He's a crowd favorite, and no one's brought him up yet. I don't think they're ready because they're too busy pretending to celebrate.
I think there's at least one or two of them at least actually celebrating.
I know, but they're so busy with that I don't think they're ready for that emotional blow, because let's be real, that's going to be the real emotional blow because he's the character a lot of people care about the most at this point.
Yeah. So. Akarui in particular, poor guy basically gave up everything he had for his brother, and now Kudai is dead.
Ugh, my heart.
I have to wonder what that is going to do to him, but I imagine it's not going to be pretty. Moving on. Back to the battles. Round 2 was bloody fantastic. Are you from the Commonwealth? I don't know. They've mentioned before that they're very private, so I doubt I'm going to get an answer to that. But Team Ruby versus Chimera felt very much like something that could have come out of the original show or Ice Queendom. I put Beyond Selves while reading their battle, which really aided the visualization for me. I think I explained this to you. For context, Beyond Selves is one of the themes for the Ruby Ice Queendom anime.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I've listened to it a couple times. It's a good track.
Okay.
Like it's not Jeff Williams, but it feels like something he could have done, like with his daughter Casey Lee Williams.
Nice.
Yeah. No, it feels very true to the spirit of the original show, which I enjoy. But let's see. Moving onwards. I'm glad that you were able to use that track in particular to aid your visualization. Like that's cool. Ingenium, Red Riot, and Tsukuyomi versus Slice. Excellent roster shift based purely on their quirks and capabilities, but I had almost forgotten that Kirishima and Ida have worked together a couple of times before now. The Bakugo rescue especially springs to mind for this. Their countermeasures for her quirk were top-notch, though I have to say that they would have been well equipped to deal with any of the villains they might have trapped, save for 9. Kirishima's defense, Ida's speed, and Tokoyami's monstrous power made them a very good all-rounder group. Like, honestly, I was just thinking of ways to counter Slice. But yeah, like I hadn't thought about, like, they would be a really good all-rounder team. Like them three together, like that's a solid lineup. That sounds like I'm patting myself on the back. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make it sound that way. It's just like I honestly didn't think about it in that light until it was brought up this way. Let's see. Switch's takedown was especially good for a couple of reasons. First, I love me a good helping of revenge when the hero was pretty much justified in it. Second, it was cool to see Hagakure, get a bit of screen time for a battle. In the original movie, she is pretty much the only one who contributes nothing significant to the fights that take place. So to have her be largely responsible for one of the most dangerous villains' takedown was really cool, especially since it seemed entirely like something that could have come right out of the anime itself.
Yep. And I love her too. So that was, I don't know if we've said this before, but back when Joe was first designing Kudai as a character,
Hagakure was the runner-up.
He was trying to come up with a love interest, and I was voting Hagakure.
She was the runner-up for me as well.
No, I wanted Hagakure, but you chose Mina.
Because I went for Mina based on the personality differtions.
Yeah, and
you know me, I'm a sucker for sucker for opposites attract.
Yeah, because it's too familiar, right? But no, I think I've always had a soft spot for Hagakure, and so it was really cool seeing her play this pivotal role.
Yeah, they couldn't have taken Switch out the way that they did without Hagakure. She was instrumental to her defeat. Let's see. So I'm glad you appreciate it too, dude. Dudette, whichever one I'm gonna go with dude for now. Because that just seems
Endeavor and All Might are both guys. I'm gonna sorry if we're assuming your gender again, but that's what I mean. That's what I would guess.
Fair enough.
So
yeah. All right. Anyways, moving on. Now for the battle with 9, very well done in living up to the grandiosity portrayed in the film. Thanks, dude. Having Todoroki be one of the heavy hitters incapable of taking 9 down really helps to reinforce for the characters the idea that this is not somebody that any one of them can defeat. It really will take all of them, even Kai, who constantly tries to get involved and is failing, which was honestly kind of funny to me because it was obvious that he could have muscled his way past his friends at any given point in the fight, injured or not. The fact that he held back for so long speaks to his respect for them and their concern for him.
Yes.
Until someone pushes the hurt Mina button, and 9 shouldn't have did that. I'm not sure if that's a Team 4-Star reference, but if it is, well placed.
Pushed the Bulma button.
You pushed the Goku button. You shouldn't have did that.
See, I think more of
Vegeta freaking out
protective over his Bulma.
You shouldn't have did that.
That just sold me on loving Vegeta. Like, I was already starting to love Vegeta, and then that moment hit, and I was just like, he's officially my favorite
That's
character.
My Bulma!
Ouch, that hurt my ears. That's gonna hurt their ears. Sorry, guys.
Wear headphones for these podcasts, people.
Ouch, that's still gonna hurt.
Anybody want some tinnitus?
Continue.
I have often enjoyed watching what happens when Kurai snaps,
getting to have a look at his darker side, and this instance did not disappoint. As soon as 9 injured his girl, I knew that things were about to go south for him real quick. The Kurama conjuration might have been a tad overkill, but let's be real. We all know someone who would absolutely rage like that if they had the capabilities, and not all of them are teenagers. Him having the means and motivation to do so seems like an honest-to-goodness reaction on the part of an incensed boy trying to protect what he loves. Seeing Team Lightning drop and Bakugo rallying for one last push was really special to me. It really felt like a proper culmination of everything that these heroes have worked toward in becoming a proper team. They each know which role to play, how to complement each other in doing so. There was no stepping on anyone's toes, no petty competitiveness, just a group of friends bringing out the best in each other's capabilities. Side note, I think that other than Deku being hyped up on Energon, Uraraka scares me more than anyone else who could have gotten that power up. Girl threw a damn cliffside at 9. That's terrifying. At least with Mina's acid or Todoroki's flames, your end would be quick. Watching an entire cliff head right for you and knowing there is no way you can blast through enough of the rock or run away in time to would be the absolute pinnacle of fear for a lot of villains out there, methinks. Kurai's moment of reflection before what he believes to be his last attack was wonderfully short and to the point. Real quick, yeah, I'm with you, dude. Uraraka with zero gravity juiced up on Energon, that would be awful. That would be awful to fight. That's no, thank you. I at one point had a thought of having her like maybe power up her quirks to the point where it's like gravity is just like repelled by whatever she touches.
I don't think it works.
But it doesn't work
way.
that way. Like again, it was one of those very brief very brief ideas, and I quickly moved on from it. Let's see. A lot of flashing before my eyes moments just drag. Here you barely wrote 3 paragraphs worth of words and got the job done. His last moment with Mina was, in retrospect, very sad to me. On my first reading through, I rather thought that he would get to fill out the sad goodbye with his last breath bit, and I didn't really feel much in regards to it. However, after reading the latest chapter, realizing that the last time he spoke to her didn't even contain a proper goodbye, that hurt. I don't have anyone I care that much about. But if I do someday, I can't even begin to imagine how much it would hurt to lose that person and not even get to see them off, so to speak. Yeah, I was trying to think of what can I do to make this really sad? Like, what can I do to just really gut punch even myself with this? And just realizing that not getting to say goodbye to somebody that I love that much, that would hurt way beyond at least have it. Because at least when you say goodbye, you have closure, right? You can have your last words, and it's a very sad affair, but you can say what you need to say or what you want to say at the very least. He doesn't get that. Neither of them gets that. She's gonna wake up and he's dead, and she didn't get to say goodbye to him. He was literally ripped out of her arms. Yep. And then that was it. That's the last thing she's ever gonna remember of him. That to me is that's what was the gut punch for me. Let's see.
No, mine's coming up.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Let's see. So to speak. Now for the big kaboom. You got rid of One for All. Part of me wonders whether or not Deku should have tried harder to get the quirk to Bakugo, especially with knowing that Kurai was about to die. Even if they didn't know that having more than one quirk is bad for your health, the amount of force driving that particular quirk could have well just obliterated Kurai in one blow when combined with Energon. But to be fair, Kurai was right next to him, and given their bond, it makes sense that he would be the one Deku chose as his heir when the time came. Yeah, we've gone into the whole what the characters know versus what the author knows, so we're gonna move on from that. But thank you for saying as much. Kurai's recollection of Lemillion being the ideal hero nearly brought a tear to my eye because, as I've mentioned before, the episodes where they rescue Eri are my absolute favorites in the series. So to have them once again play a role in this pivotal moment really hit the right feels button for me.
Oh, I didn't even have the music playing, and I could hear it, and it was killing me.
Yeah, because it's not the same track. It's different vocals for the moment in the movie and the moment where they rescue Eri, but they're very the track is the same. The vocals are different, but they are close enough that definitely same for me. That's always a tearjerker for me. I love that Kurai had a moment of true heroic sacrifice played out for him so to rely on when making this decision. It truly made the scene go from great to plus ultra for me. Dude, that's like a dude, like your compliments.
Thank you.
Thank you, dude.
You're getting him too confident here, though.
Sorry.
Just kidding. No, thank you for kind feedback.
Yes, thank you. It is really appreciated.
And I think it helps energize him to get more done.
Yeah.
He's more motivated. So
For real.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was further surprised and glad to find that while the scene of transference was the emotional peak for this arc, at least for me, it was not the pinnacle of the narration. Deku and Kai's conversation about why they had done what they did certainly stood out to me, and that not only was it significantly different from the original, but carried more weight and significance, and that it truly changes things going forward. As far as Deku knows, this is not just the end of him being a hero, but the end of One For All itself, which speaks even greater volumes of his sacrifice here. Kurai also knows and accepts this, forcing him to truly live and die by his own words, that he must now stand his ground, even knowing what it all means for him and the world at large. My Aussie came out there. That came. Where did that come from? Good grief.
Yeah, I think you're tired.
Might be. A man's last moments reveals their character, and Kurai showed that he really was a hero. Now, I know how you dislike anime movies for not carrying any lasting effects into the main series, which you certainly managed to change with the first movie's arc. I had assumed that the significant change this time around would be that Kurai died, and that would be it. But no, not only is your main character dead, One For All is gone with him. My jaw dropped when I realized that he was giving his own quirk to Deku, because he didn't realize that One For All could have gone back to Deku on its own, which may have really just made things worse instead of fixing them.
Somebody hit the hammer on the head there.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah. It's been a couple people. Yeah, you guys are getting too smart for me. I'm gonna have to step it up here. I know that they had no way of knowing what Shigaraki is currently up to. So while him doing what he could to repay Deku makes sense for him to do, it makes me wonder just how on Earth things are going to go during the war with the Paranormal Liberation Front. Man, that is a mouthful when I'm tired. My guess? Not well. You've now shown that you really will kill your favorite character for the sake of the story, which makes me very worried for what's to come. I'm not sure if Kurai is my favorite character for this story, but he's definitely up there. I'd have to think about that.
Do you have a favorite character?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you guys on that one. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll have to come back to that one. Let's see. Akarui's brain is really the only hope they might have to beat a Shigaraki who has all for one. Without one for all, anyway. So he better figure out a way to get better, and fast. Deku's going to need his help to master his brother's quirk, if nothing else. Yeah, I'm really surprised that Endeavor to Be All Might's like the only one mentioning Akarui here, because like everybody loves him.
Like I said, they're not ready for that emotional weight
yet. You're right. Let's see. One last thing. It seems like Bakugo's character development is about to get a major boost, which I can certainly get behind. Either that or he's about to majorly tank. There is no in between with that guy. You are not wrong. I wish I had more thoughts to give on this mystery girl who has appeared, but other than knowing she's probably going to be a major figure going forward, I can do nothing really other than wait for you to make some kind of grand reveal. Please don't mistake that for sarcasm. I'm genuinely intrigued by who she is and what she can go on to do. Yeah, me too, dude. I'm very excited for this character. The canon divergence is real and things have gotten incredibly bleak. I love it. Now more than ever, I'm eager to know just what you have planned for what comes next and your version of the endgame. Thank you for giving us an inspiring hero to get behind until now. Now I wait to see just how much his legacy will inspire his friends, family, and even his country after his death. Happy writing until the next one, and be well in all things. Dude.
Nice. Thank you.
That was very nice of you. I mean, if that's what you're looking forward to, the next few chapters will not disappoint. I'll say that.
All right. Well, thank you, Endeavor to Be
So
All Might.
many
And
reviews.
everybody,
So many reviews. Thank you guys.
That was a long
I think we're running up on almost 2 hours of going on reviews.
If you're still listening,
I would if I was into making 2-parters for videos, I would do it here. But I've been doing this while the videos recently. I put a timestamp for when the chapter begins. So if you guys want to just skip to the chapter and get going, go for it.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you very much to everybody who has
stuck with us for 77 chapters. Good grief. Thank you for all your thoughts and your thoughts, your concerns, your everythings that come to this story. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys doing this. It is a very large reason for why I continue to do what I do.
All right. Well, that being said, have an awesome couple of weeks, and
we're no, they're not done. We're done recording for the night.
Oh, they're about to hear the chapter.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
We gotta get. We're cutting off for the night. We'll record.
Good night. Bye.
This is gonna be
Forget behind the scenes for this chapter. Bye. Just kidding.
We'll do we'll just record that on a different day. We'll see you guys in a day or so. You'll see us in however many minutes it takes to get through the chapter. See you in a bit.
I hear the rain start to fall as it turns to a pour. We're here again in this storm, but we've been here before. I see the street signs wanted, telling me that I had no other place I could go. Feel like I'm stuck in motion, can't find balance. I'm living in a vertigo. Everything is nothing like before. I've tried to hold it together, clinging on to memories I swore that I could hang on forever. But the end of the road wasn't far. I let go and I suddenly woke in my bed. Rubbed the haze from my eyes. I've always hated goodbyes.
The path relit. Silence had never seemed so loud to anyone. Normally, times of quiet allowed one to rest and reflect on the past, but for Class 1A, the silence in the agency building was not only deafening, some of them could swear that it was actually suffocating too. Kai, the mighty guardian hero of UA High School, had fallen in battle. Kurai Hikari was dead, a preposterous claim if there ever was one. He had survived more than his fair share of battles, losing an arm, even going so far as to claim that he had touched upon the afterlife for a brief moment once before. Now, however, it did not seem as though he would be returning, no matter how impossible his previous feats had been. The official ruling for his death was asphyxiation, caused by a collapsed lung and other internal injuries leading to his respiratory system becoming completely clogged with blood, and as a result, being unable to breathe at all. Their most powerful classmate had choked to death after fighting to save all of them. It just seemed such an impossible thought to reconcile with reality for many of them, the fact that they would never be able to see Kurai become the hero they all knew he would have been. Izuku and Ida had taken the news hard, with both of them shedding many tears for their dead friend. Even though they had each known him for a different amount of time, both could easily say they had looked to Kurai as a brother, and they would mourn him as such. Ochako and Kirishima were also visibly distraught, and even Todoroki was seen crying on his own when he thought that no one was looking. Blake had tried to hide the fact that she had been mourning with her own tears in private, but her reddened eyes and flushed cheeks gave it away, though everyone was kind enough not to point out the fact. They all knew that she was blaming herself, and they had to let her sort through her grief the best way that she knew how, at least for now. Strangest to the others was the fact that Bakugo seemed equally upset by the whole thing, because there was no hint of his usual blustering or telling other people to get over themselves. He was just as quiet as everyone else, much like when All Might had sacrificed his powers to save him and defeat All for One. Of course, no one was faring worse than Mina, who had yet to say a word since regaining consciousness and seeing her boyfriend's body covered by a mortician's blanket. What was frightening to her friends was that she had yet to shed even a single tear for the boy that she loved, a sign of an unhealthy mourning process if there ever was one for people their age. Of course, no one could even begin to think about how to approach her either. She and Kurai had been together through so much that one was now hardly mentioned without the other. The two of them had even been thought of as the most likely to get married among their friends. How did one go about consoling someone who had just lost what she had? Especially when they couldn't even pretend to relate. Izuku and Ochako were close and liked each other a great deal, certainly, but they had never been as forward in their relationship as their friends, so it wasn't likely that any advice they could scrounge up would be helpful, if even welcome. So the silence reigned supreme while the students allowed the teachers and other pro-heroes that had come to rescue them take over the handling of Nabu's population and surveying the extent of the damages done to the island. No one wanted the quiet to endure, but no one wanted to be the first to break it either. All they could do was look at one another with haunted eyes while Mina stared blankly at Kurdai's scouter, which she had left behind at the shelter when he went to join the fight. It was one of his only belongings that had survived the storm that Nine had rained down upon them, and Mina had refused to let it go since finding it. It was supposed to be turned off, so it was nothing less than a fright when it suddenly started beeping with the sound of an incoming call. It startled Mina badly enough that she nearly dropped it, only managing to keep it from hitting the floor when Sarah's tape snatched it up and deposited it back in her shaking hands. "Thanks," she whispered hoarsely, though she made no move to answer the call. "Who's calling him?" Kaminari wondered. "Whoever it is probably doesn't know what's happened to him yet," Asui croaked. "Should we just let it go to voicemail?" Blake asked tiredly. They were all a little surprised when Mina, without looking at the lens, hit the call button and said in a dead voice, "Hey, Akarui." "Hello, Mina." The robotic voice of Kurdai's younger brother came through clearly enough for the others to hear him. "I've seen the news. If you're answering this call, then I'll assume that my brother is either in the hospital again or he didn't make it this time." When his only answer was silence, he went on to say, "I see. I just received a handful of encrypted messages from his scouter the minute that communications were restored to the island. Seems he had them recorded, and then had the scouter trying to send the data until a successful connection was made. Because he hasn't contacted me to tell me that the delivery of the messages is no longer necessary, I knew that I needed to confirm what I was suspecting. As it stands, some are meant for the police in the event of his demise. One is for me, one is for you, and one is for your class. I haven't listened to that or the one marked for you, Mina, but I imagine you'll want some privacy when you do hear it." "Wait, are you saying that he planned on dying?" Hiroshima demanded. "There's no way. He was always saying how he'd fight so that everyone could go home at the end of the day, himself included. He wouldn't just go back on that." There was a second of relative quiet while Kaminari and Sero tried to get Kirishima to settle down before Akarui answered. "Based on his message to me, I don't think he was planning on dying. To the contrary, I believe that he genuinely fought as hard as he could to survive, more for your guys' sake than his own. Even so, he seemed to know that this was a possibility, and he wanted to leave you with some closure." "What is wrong with you?" Mina asked, her voice shaking as her hands and voice shaking as her vacant eyes locked on the device that was producing Akarui's mechanical voice. "How can you sound so calm and act like everything is okay right now? Did you not care about him?" "Wait, Mina." "No!" she shouted, not bothering to see who had reached out to her. Her empty black and toffee-colored eyes were fixed solely on the scouter as she yelled. "It's always been like this with you. When your dad died, when your mom went to jail, and now when your brother dies, you act like a freaking robot! How can you not care about what happened to your own brother? How can you be so cold about all of this?" "Mina, stop!" Izuku shouted as he grabbed a hold of her arm and wrested the scouter away from her, despite her protest. Apparently, even without his quirk and his arm still healing from the backlash of using One for All at full power, he was plenty strong. As she looked at him with quavering eyes, he softened his tone and said, "Akarui can't express emotions like us anymore, remember? He sacrificed his life for Kurdai, and now he's done the same for us. He probably understands better than any of us just what Kurdai suffered through and why he did it. Of course he's hurting." The shaking in Mina's hands began to transfer itself to the rest of her body, and she looked as though she were trying to talk, but no sound came out of her lips as Ochako moved in close to give the girl a tight hug. Leaving her to it, Izuku looked directly at the device before saying, "Akarui, I have Kurdai's scouter. You said that he left us a message in case this happened to him?" "Yes." The class was surprised to hear Akarui's actual voice coming through this time. He had demonstrated his capability to talk a few times since the concert at their school, but he only did it every once in a while, as it apparently had hurt his throat to talk and tired his face and neck muscles exponentially. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, Mina." Now they could detect a hint of huskiness in his voice as an indicator of his tears, damaged though his vocal cords were. "I always thought that my life would secure his." There was a brief coughing fit, followed by him saying in a more haggard tone, "I'm sorry. He loved you more than anyone else." There was another brief pause before the electronic voice came back. "Sorry, my throat was giving out. I've sent 2 messages as voicemails in the scouter. The first one is for Class A. The second is for Mina. I'll let you all go now. I need to tell my cousin and aunt." The line of communication went dead, and Izuku slowly lowered the device to his side, silence settling into the room once again. Poor kid, Ojiro said desolately. I can't even imagine. Mina flinched at that, but she knew that Akarui was probably suffering even more than she was right then, even if by a little. She had lost her first love in a tragic manner, of course, but now Akarui was bereft of nearly everyone in his family. His mother was in prison, his grandparents were long buried, and he would have to stand over the graves of not only his uncle and father, but also his brother, whom he had given up everything to save. He had very little left to live for in every sense of the term. And yet he still took the time to reach out and make sure that we were okay, she thought dully. Some hero I am. It should have been the other way around. Despite these thoughts, it was not enough to rouse her out of the stupor that made her vision gray and her limbs feel like aching lead. Would she feel like this for the rest of her life? Was life worth living if this was all it had to offer? Shouldn't we listen to what Hogasha had to say? Everyone was more or less snapped out of a reverie by Bakugo's growl. He was staring at the device in Izuku's hand as he added, It's not like the damn thing's gonna play itself, and this will be the last thing we ever hear from him. Might as well see what was so damn important he had to record it. Kachan, maybe we should wait until everyone else has had a chance to... Give me the scouter, you damn nerd! Bakugo snapped as he yanked the device out of his classmate's hand. I'm not big on patience. No kidding, Kirishima muttered, but nobody made a move to stop him as he pushed a button on the side that was blinking yellow. Immediately, a familiar voice began to play out of the speaker, causing everyone to silence themselves. Class 1A, Kurai began, sounding tired. It's so weird to think that you guys are the ones that I want to hear some of my last words, if that's what this turns out to be. I honestly hope it doesn't, because there's so much more that I want to do with all of you. I'm going to fight, and I'm going to do so with every intention of surviving, because I promised Mina and Akarui that I would never go into battle unless I believed I had a good chance at making it out on top. So, if you're hearing this, it means that the villain had some ace up his sleeve that we just couldn't account for, and I'm sorry that it has come to this. He coughed a little and spat something out before continuing with his speech. You guys were the best friends that I ever could have wished for, and I hope that you'll continue to be there for one another even after this. Growing up, my most consistent friend was Tenya, and I'm glad that we've been able to mend the rift that grew between us at the beginning of the year. I'll be happy to know that we parted as friends and not in anger. Everyone else, it's your job to look after him now. He may be our leader, but someone has to watch his back, and I'm not around to do it anymore, so I hope you won't mind taking up the slack for me. Ida was, in spite of himself and his tears, managing to smile just a bit as he heard of his oldest friend's concern for him, even after his passing. Blake, I told you earlier, but if you're hearing this now, you'll need to hear it again, the recording now said, causing the American to stiffen in place as her dead friend now spoke to her. This is not your fault. My death is in no way on your hands, got it? If I'm dead, it's because I ignored everyone's advice to stay out of things, not because a villain tricked us. I know you'll kick yourself no matter what I say, but I hope it helps you to know that I don't hold anything against you. Blake's head hung lower in a vain attempt to hide the waterfall from her eyes, flowing her new rivulets, while Yang moved to hug her friend close. Izuku, Bakugo might well make it to the top spot before you do, but don't let him get too comfortable, okay? Kurai said. If Deku isn't the #1 hero by the time you're 30, I'm going to haunt your ass until you join me in the afterlife, and then I'll nag you about it until the end of time itself. So there. The explosive student, instead of looking outraged, paused the recording and looked over at Deku, who was staring at the floor, his shoulders slumped. What's wrong, guys? Kirishima asked them. The thing out of batteries? No, dumb hair. Bakugo snapped. Deku lost his quirk in that fight. What? The rest of the class was shocked. How? Ruby managed to shout ahead of everyone else. Did 9 get him? Something like that, Izuku answered as he stared at his scarred hand. Kachan, let the rest play. We don't need to stop because of me. I can't believe he took the time to single you out. The blonde student growled, causing many of the others to look at him with disapproval. Before they could act on it, he demanded, Where's the Deku who said he was going to become a hero, even if he didn't have a quirk, huh? Before your body finally got with the program and manifested your stupid power, you said you'd still become a hero like All Might, right? What happened to all that, huh? Don't tell me you're giving up after Hikari entrusted you with his job. Bakugo, enough! Ida tried to say, only to be warded off by Bakugo's palm facing him and sparking dangerously. This doesn't concern you, Four Eyes, the explosive student warned. This is about Deku and Hokusha, got it? I'm just making sure he gets the message. I got it, Kachan, Izuku said as he took the scouter away from his childhood friend/bully. I need time to process it, but I won't give up if that's what he wanted. I promise. Good, the red-eyed hero said curtly. Now finish the damn message so we can all get on with our lives. Izuku waved everyone else down before there could be a scene. That was the last thing that any of them needed right now, and besides which, he got the message Bakugo was giving him. We don't have time to be feeling sorry for ourselves, he thought grimly. We're still heroes, and the people under our protection come first, no matter what's happened to us. Even something like this shouldn't keep us down, and Kurai knew that. After he clicked the play button, they listened to their friend say, That doesn't mean the rest of you get to take it easy, you hear? I want to see Deku become number one. Sorry, guys, but you gotta have respect for the dead. Am I right? Some of them were mortified to hear him chuckling to himself, but if they were being honest, they weren't exactly surprised that he would crack a joke even under post-mortem circumstances. Todoroki, you're already better than your old man could ever hope to be, the dead boy assured his friend. Don't let any statistics or billboard chart placings tell you different. If it feels like that's not enough, just remember the kind of hero you want to be. He paused for a second before he added, Kirishima, tell Amajiki and Facom I'm sorry I won't be back for next semester's work study. It was a lot of fun working with you guys. I wish we'd been able to see Amajiki get over his Shy Guy act. There was a hint of a laugh in his voice, which brought a reluctant smile to the face of the sturdy hero. Where I've gone, I know I'll be able to watch over you guys, Kurai continued in a more serious tone of voice. And I will. I'm going to watch you become the greatest heroes that the world has ever seen. And when we all finally reunite, we're going to celebrate that fact. There was a slight pause before he said, All right, it's time to go. Sayonara, Class A. The message ended and the device went silent in Deku's hand, after which Bakugo took it again and approached Mina to hold it out to her. Last one's for you, Ashido, he said as she accepted the item without looking up. Whatever he had to say must have been pretty important, so don't take too long in listening to him. Mina didn't answer with words, but she gripped the scouter tighter than before as she looked out the window while the sun began to descend past the horizon. Come on, guys, Todoroki said as he stood up from where he'd been sitting. We're still obligated to help the people on this island. Those of us that can move wreckage should start helping with the cleanup efforts. Those of us who can't should at least try to assist with the census and inventory evaluations. He's right, Deku said as he stood up beside his friend. Kurai would have wanted us to keep being heroes, so let's not disappoint him. Yeah, Kirishima agreed, though he lacked his usual enthusiasm as he flexed his rock-hard arm. One by one, every student in Class A got to their feet, save for Mina Ashido. Seeing this, her middle school friend said, Come on, guys. Let's give her some time. She'll join us when she's ready. Mina wasn't entirely sure of how long she sat, unmoving in the darkening office room that had been given to the UA Hero Agency program, but it was well past nightfall by the time her fingers finally managed to press the playback button. There were so many memories she had with Kurai that she just wanted to go back and relive with greater appreciation, even unto his final moments. He had fulfilled his duty as a hero and defended everyone until his last literal breath. That was a good, noble thing for a hero to accomplish, right? Saving everyone else's life at the cost of only one? But why did it have to be his life? She thought as her body trembled violently. Why was it always him that had to suffer? Her shaking is actually what triggered the final recording, and when she heard his voice, she froze, unprepared for what was to come, but being incapable of stopping it. Hey, Mina. Kurai's voice sounded even more tired than in the previous file, which meant that it was probably the last one he had recorded. I'm so sorry if you're hearing this. It's not how I thought our story would end. I love you more than anything, and I want to stay by your side until we're old and gray. Good grief. When did I start thinking about this kind of thing? I sound like my brother. He laughed a little, though the sound was kind of ruined by a slight rattling in his chest and a wet cough that followed. Once he had cleared his throat, however, he admitted, Actually, that's not really true, I guess. I've been thinking about this for a while now, since the summer camp, if I'm being honest. Mina's breath hitched at that, but she continued to pay attention as the dead hero kept speaking to her. You remember how I told you that I saw my uncle, Shiro? He told me that I wasn't crazy for being in love with you, no matter how young we are. I guess I really needed to hear that because it was only after I woke up that I was able to fully open myself up to you. And I'm glad that I did. She could practically see his grinning face in her mind's eye as he went on to say, I used to be a pretty narrow-minded guy, Mina. My father's career as a police officer exposed me to a lot of dark truths about the world, and for most of my life, that's all I was able to see in the things and people around me. But then I met you, and you showed me how to see the good in so many things that I would have discounted. You taught me that being a hero doesn't mean that my life loses value in comparison to someone else's, because even heroes have families who will miss them after they're gone. There was another slight pause before he said, I hadn't ever really thought about having a family of my own, Mina. Not before you came along. I suppose I had always planned on dedicating my life to the job and not much else. Thanks to you, I started to think about life differently. About what it would be like to devote myself to a person instead of an ideal. I started thinking about our future, our happiness, our family. Mina's eyes were burning, so she shut them in a vague attempt to ward off what was coming, but that just made it easier to see what he was describing. The two of them, in front of the gates of UA 20 years from now, watching a young man dressed in their school uniform with black eyes and horns that glowed with starlight as he waved goodbye to them. At her side was a smaller girl with pink hair and her father's smile as she bid her brother good luck on his first day of high school. Grasping Kodai's metal hand was another little girl who looked just like her mother had been during her grade school years, though she seemed much shyer than she had ever been. Losing that future with you, Mina. The thought of it is infinitely more terrifying than I can even begin to describe. The boy was saying now, his voice trembling with enough emotion to match the tempest that was raging inside of the pink girl now. But if you're hearing this, then I have no choice but to entrust that future to you. Don't you say it. Don't you dare. She whimpered as the burning in her eyes intensified and the images in her mind grew more vivid. She saw an island home where they were sitting on the front porch just enjoying the sunset and sounds of the ocean in front of them. She saw the two of them standing with Izuku and Ochako and all their children playing together in a big yard. She even saw the two men addressing a large crowd with huge smiles on their faces as they were officially recognized as the new symbols of peace and justice. Live enough for the both of us, he quavered. Become the hero that I always knew you could be. And remember that you're not just anyone's hero, okay, Ashid Queen? You're my hero. He sniffled, drew in a deep breath, and then said, We'll see each other again. I know it. I love you, Mina Ashido. Goodbye. As the message ended and the scouter fell to the floor, Mina finally felt the burning in her eyes escape the confinement of her eyelids and seep out onto her cheeks as she vented her sorrows into a haunting, groaning wail of despair. She had been scared and sad before, but that was nothing compared to the clawing, ravenous despair that was eating away at her now. There was nothing but the agony of the void left behind by Kodai's death. It wasn't just a pain in her spirit, but an actual physical sensation like her heart was being squeezed mercilessly by a dozen swords from all sides. It left her curled up on the floor, groaning and rocking back and forth as she waited for a reprieve from this awful pain that would never leave her. Izuku and Bakugo were sitting atop a pile of rubble that had once been the island's middle school as the moon started to climb into the sky. The both of them, along with the rest of their class, had been told to go and get some rest by their teachers. They had been reluctant to let them assist in the first place, but the class had made the point that not only were they contracted to assist the island during the times of crisis, they also really had nothing better to do. They were prevented from doing any heavy lifting, but it helped for the lot of them to keep busy with helping the citizens and other heroes begin putting the ruins of the town back together. Of course, things were harder for Izuku since he no longer possessed superhuman strength and stamina, but he had labored alongside the others without complaint. All Might had quietly informed Aizawa that the boy's quirk had been lost in the course of the battle with the villains, though the man had yet to voice how this would affect Izuku's future as a student at UA. There was the unspoken thought that maybe Eri could rewind him to a time when he had One for All, But there was just too much about the quirk that even All Might didn't know about to be certain that it would even be possible for such a thing to occur. I don't regret what I did, Izuku thought as he clenched his scarred fist. Kurai was the one who deserved to have the power to save us all. And if my powers were the price for saving all of these people, then that's okay. You done giving yourself a pep talk, nerd? Bakugo suddenly growled, startling his classmate. Was I talking out loud again? The brunette squawked. He had actually been in the school area first and had expected Bakugo to tell him to get lost when he showed up, but until now, the other boy had been uncharacteristically quiet. No, you just get that annoying look on your face whenever you're trying to make up your mind about something. The blonde student shot back. You made a boneheaded move giving the power to Hogasha, but you can't go back and change it. So stop trying to justify it in your head, Deku, and get on with your life. That's not your place to say, Kachan, Izuku said in a tight voice. The power belonged to me, so I decided who was worthy to inherit it, just like All Might and all the others who went before us. And no one deserved it more than Kurai, not even me. He didn't agree with that, Bakugo snorted. Right before he died, he was trying to give the power back to you. I tried to remind him it didn't work like that, but he didn't seem to care. Not like it mattered in the end, right? He told me that he couldn't stand the idea of making someone else quirkless because of him again, right after I gave him the power, Izuku recounted. He must have been hoping for some kind of miracle before the end. But you're right. I don't have one for all anymore. I tried to use it earlier just to be sure, but there was nothing. Bakugo regarded him silently for a second before asking, That's it? You lose your power, you're not even upset about it? Of course I'm upset, Kachan! Izuku shouted, slamming his fist into a chunk of rock from the wall while he turned his head to look angrily at his childhood friend. Our friend is dead, maybe because I didn't think of anything fast enough to save him. How else would I feel? He was about to add more, but then he noticed that Bakugo was staring at something behind him with wide eyes. What? Deku, look at the rock you just hit. What? As Izuku swiveled his head to comply with the strange request, he felt his voice die in his throat as he saw the small boulder now broken into several smaller pieces and flung against what had been the northern gym wall. His gaze dropped down to his right hand, but he saw no sign of One For All residing in his body, nor did he feel the familiar electric rush of power coursing through his fingertips. How did I... What was that, Deku? Bakugo asked as the two of them stood and began to approach the new rubble. It didn't look like One For All. It didn't feel like it either, Izuku muttered as he inspected the damage. And my arm doesn't hurt at all. At that level, it would have at least caused it to bruise a little, but nothing. Wait a sec. Bakugo suddenly grabbed onto Izuku's arm and forced him to face him directly. All right, nerd, you're the quirk expert. So remind me again what happens when One For All mixes with someone's original power. All Might said that it did more than just enhance the wielder's physical strength. Izuku nodded, not quite understanding where the conversation was headed. He said that his master used to be able to fly, but after she gave him One For All, it started to reserve back to its base levitation function. I don't care about what she did with it, you damn nerd! Bakugo snapped, causing the other boy to yelp involuntarily. I care about whether or not One For All affected Hogasha's chakra powers. It sure as hell kicked Black Whip into a higher gear when you used it. His chakra powers? Izuku repeated. What does Black Whip have to do with... Think, moron! Bakugo snorted as he let the other boy go. If Hogasha was able to enhance the strength of his chakra abilities with All Might's power, he must have been able to take them to levels way beyond what they were built for, like Float turning into Flying, and Black Whip spazzing out hard enough to wreck half a city. What are you getting at, Kachan? Bakugo folded his arms as he eyed the other boy critically for a moment. Seriously, Deku, the answer's been staring you in the face, and I'm starting to get real pissed that you're not seeing it too. Starting to... What answer, Kachan? Hogasha gave you his powers before he bit it, Deku! The two boys were now right in each other's faces, which allowed Bakugo a clear view into Izuku's eyes as they widened with the light of stunned recognition. He had that ability to share part of his power with the people he cared about, right? If he combined it with One For All, then... Damn it, do the rest of the math yourself! Izuku slowly backed away from the other boy as he stared down at his hands, which were shaking with some unidentifiable emotion. Was it really possible? Had Kurai been able to use the strength of All Might's old quirk in conjunction with his own to give Deku a chance at continuing his journey to become the world's greatest hero? There's only one way to find out, nerd, Bakugo said as he pointed at the sky. You've seen him do it 100 times. Shouldn't be hard for a copycat like you to figure out how to repeat it. Wait, maybe this isn't such a good idea, Izuku said as he held up his hands defensively. There's so much we don't know, and I don't want to scare any of the other heroes or islanders. Do it before I howitzer you, Deku! Bakugo held his hands about behind him as if to instigate a jump, so Izuku reacted accordingly. Kachan, cut it out! He yelled as he raised his hands to block on reflex, intending to shield himself from whatever blast Bakugo did conjure. What happened instead was that a small barrage of emerald-colored lasers shot out of Izuku's hands and exploded on contact with Bakugo's body, sending him flying into the remnants of the gymnasium with a loud shout of pain and surprise. Damn it! The explosive student roared as he quickly got on his feet with a glare at the stunned-looking rival. You're lucky I know you did that on accident, or I'd kill you! Kachan, Save it! Bakugo dusted himself off and then stalked toward the clearly startled Quirk inheritor before standing at arm's length and growling, At least we have our answer. You better make good use of that power, Deku. Don't lose this one, you hear me? With that, he started to walk away, only to be stopped by Izuku's voice. Why are you helping me, Kachan? The quieter boy asked. You've always done what you could to leave me behind. I've had to fight for every inch of acknowledgement that you've given me up till now. Why are you suddenly helping me? Hogasha went out like a real hero, Bakugo said simply without turning around. Not many pros these days would have the balls to do what he did, so I can't let him leave anything half-finished. In his last moments, he was desperate to get to you, even though he could have made it to Ashido if I'd carried him. Tells me that he must have thought you were pretty damn important to entrust his quirk to you. He shot a glare over his shoulder as he added, Don't think you'll get another do-over, Deku. If you're not careful, you'll lose your new powers like you lost One for All, and then who's gonna bail your ass out? I get it, Kachan, Izuku said firmly as he looked down at his right hand, his palm facing the sky. I may have to start over at learning how to control my powers, but my goal hasn't changed. I'll become the #1 hero, the one who saves everyone with a smile on my face. Heh! Bakugo scoffed as he walked off, hands in his pockets. In your dreams, nerd. I don't need to use borrowed powers to take the #1 spot, so get ready to eat my dust. With Hogasha gone, that spot is wide open, and I'm going to be the one to take it. As he walked out of earshot, Izuku sighed to himself and muttered, Same old Kachan. As he spoke, he concentrated on the image of light appearing over his palm, like he had seen Kurai do so many times before. If he gifted me with his power, then I have a double responsibility to uphold, he thought as his brow furrowed heavily. First All Might, and now Kurai. Both of them entrusted everything to me, and I can't let them down. If I'm really worthy of their powers, there's no reason for me to take it easy, even now. Even if I have to start over from scratch, I can get started right now. A brilliant green light flashed to life in his hand, growing larger by the second, too fast for him to control it, inexperienced as he was. Uh-oh. Acting on his first instinct, he thrust his hands upward and desperately willed the energy to get away from him before it could explode and harm him or any others that might still be nearby. Instantly, a massive green laser blasted into the sky, lighting up the island's evening air and drawing the attention of many of its residents, as well as the heroes who had come to help. Watch it, moron! Bakugo shouted from across the street. Sorry! While many people on Nabu Island were wondering just what on earth was happening, one pair of eyes was drawn toward the source of the light, instead of up into the night sky. Mina rubbed at her raw eyelids before she stood up on shaking legs and stumbled over to the window in order to watch the laser fizzle out, allowing darkness to fall on the island again. She knew that power well, but she also knew that it no longer belonged to the one who had mastered it. She wasn't entirely sure of how Kurai had done it, but based on the color of the energy she had just seen, it was obvious to her that her boyfriend's quirk now resided in the body of his brother in arms. Ochako told me that Izuku lost his powers after he gave them to Kurai, she thought slowly. But I guess Kurai wasn't cool with just taking the quirk and leaving. He made sure that his friend would be able to carry on both of their dreams even after he was gone. The problem with that was Izuku would have next to no idea how to control the power like Kurai had. He had helped his friend come up with ways to focus his powers more finely, but that wasn't the same as understanding the fundamentals of the quirk on an instinctive level. No one alive knew how to use Energon as well as Kurai had, and unlike when Izuku had received his last quirk, there was no one to teach him how to use it from prior experience. However, Mina was incredibly familiar with Kurai's powers, having discussed them with him many, many times in an effort to better understand the side effects it could have on him, and how to help him when circumstances had forced him to overuse one ability or another. If anyone had a chance at teaching her friend how to use Kurai's power correctly, it was her. Mina shut her eyes tight, knowing what this meant for her. In fact, she could have sworn that she heard Kurai whisper in her ear, I owe him a lot. Please help him for me. She shuddered with cold, wishing that the Phantom's voice would be accompanied by the familiar warmth of Kurai's embrace on chilly winter's nights. Only for you, she thought as new tears seeped out from behind her eyelids. You wanted him to become a hero badly enough to sacrifice your quirk, so I'll help Izuku. After that, she left the thought unfinished in terms of cohesiveness, But given how gray and painful the world seemed to have become around her, Mina Ashido rather thought that maybe it didn't need a heroine like her trying to protect it. Most interesting. Master. A man dressed in heavy red robes looked up from the monitor he had been studying as he recognized one of his more devoted acolytes who had approached the large desk he was currently occupying. What is it? He asked abruptly. I was about to inquire the same of you, sir, the hooded disciple answered quickly. It's been some time since I've seen you take such a keen interest in a current news article. There has been a change of plans, his master replied as he stood up from the chair, his blue skin shimmering as he did. Recent events now indicate that the world's cleansing should begin in a land far from here. But master, I thought that, as I said, recent events have necessitated a change in our plans, the leader said to cut him off. We will begin the purification process in Japan instead of Othyon. If I may, master, the acolyte hesitated before finishing. Why there, of all places? It will be far easier for us to be closer to home, would it not? Easier, you say? The man in red robes mused as he looked his subordinate in the eye. Perhaps if one looks at the immediate consequences, yes. But if you were to look at the bigger picture, you will be able to see that our opening move will be far more devastating if we but alter our plan of attack just a little. Making a vague gesture to the image on the computer so that his follower would inspect it for himself, he went on to say, This event will undoubtedly shake the faith of the unclean in their so-called champions, and I believe it will expedite things to capitalize on their uncertainty. I understand now, the acolyte said as he nodded in agreement. Very well, sir. I will see to it that our plans are changed according to your designs. Good. His master nodded with satisfaction. Soon meta-abilities will be nothing more than a cursed memory, and true humanity will be able to flourish once again. Back in mainland Japan, a pair of subdued, toffee-colored eyes stared up at the giant television in a public square, tears glistening in the evening light as the owner saw the news coverage detailing the incident on Nabu Island. An agency of young heroes with UA High School had bravely defended the residents of the small land against villains of immense power and had successfully captured 3 of his henchmen, with the leader himself having apparently been blasted into oblivion. While none of the islanders had come to any serious harm, the hero agency had lost one of their members, the young guardian hero Kai, who had gained a large fan base following his exploits earlier in the year. Apparently the boy had fought against the leader of the villains head-on, in spite of having already suffered severe injuries, all in an attempt to save the lives of his comrades and the people under their protection. I'm still too late, the onlooker thought despondently. Even after everything, I didn't make it in time. The caramel eyes looked down to stare at pale hands, which trembled in response to the emotions coursing through their owner. I was given this chance to make everything right, but I still failed. They chose wrong after all. Those who give in to despair so easily cannot hope to master their own power, much less ours. The voices that rumbled in the head of the pale figure caused her to give a start of surprise, still unused to the presence of others within her thoughts. This did not keep the voices from saying, Go to your masters, and trust in our hearts, for they are the true source of your new strength. What will happen when I go to see them? The onlooker thought as she began to walk down the street, trying to put the thought of Kurai Hikari's dead body out of her mind. How will I even explain all of this? Trust in our hearts, the voices repeated. Even now we are all connected, and they will know the truth through it. The host of the silent voices let out a long sigh before shifting their head and quickening their pace, making all possible haste toward UA High School, an old red cape fluttering in the breeze behind her.
I hate to see you go. Without you, I just don't know. When the day comes when I fall, you won't be there to catch me, no. I try, but I can't seem to. Nobody could replace you. At a loss for words as the memories flood my mind. Took the only chance to bring me back again. Like family, so much more than a friend. Miss you 3,000 3,000. Miss you 3,000.
All right, so it's the next day and a very long nap later for us.
Oh my gosh.
But I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter.
Yeah. So, I mean, the beginning's super heavy.
I mean, I feel like the whole chapter was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Like, there was, like, one moment of levity,
Yeah.
but the rest of it was just, I don't know, the rest of it was very sad to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the way I expected. I mean, I like that the kids are given a little respite.
Instead of just going right back into work.
Yeah. Phone call with Akarui was really painful.
Yeah.
And it, like, being, I don't know, it's like, it's really easy to get into that rage and blame mode. You know, when you're hurting and you're having a hard time with it. So I'm not surprised. It was really, like, frustrating that Mina did that, but it was also like, I see why.
Yeah. I was like, that made me uncomfortable to write, but at the same time it was one of those things I'm like, nah, this is the way it would have to go.
Yeah, because I mean that's what happens all too often when you lose someone.
Just a lot. It's unfortunate that, like, when somebody who is loved by a lot of people, when they die, and, like, especially when it's like it's all too soon, it's like it brings out a very ugly side to a lot of people that are around them, and it's like, and it's not even necessary like through any malice on their part. It's just like they can't figure out how to deal with what's happened.
Yeah.
So I was trying. It's an awkward subject to write about. And I don't think I've ever, like, gone at length on it before. So this is kind of my first attempt to, like, be more in depth and intentional with, like, how does this affect people? Like obviously, how does it affect, like, the main characters and the people who are, like, closest to them? But going forward, we're also gonna see more of, like, how this affected, like, the people who knew him, or at least knew of him. We're gonna get to a lot of that in some of these later chapters here. Yeah. But yeah, it's like one thing that I kind of liked getting to go into is, like, how awkward it is for everybody else, because they're like, they don't even know how to relate to her on this, because like none of them have anything similar to this.
And I mean, they're mourning in their own way too, because it's really painful when you lose someone, even if you're not super close to them. If it's someone you spend a lot, like a close proximity to a lot, it's pretty jarring. Yeah. And so it's rough for everyone involved.
I don't what sorry. You weren't done talking, what were you saying?
No, you're good. For me, I really loved the conversation between Bakugo and Izuku.
When they're alone at the...
Yes.
That was my favorite part of the chapter to write. I had thought about Deku figuring out that he has Energon. I thought about putting that in, like, a couple of chapters from now, but I was like, it just, like,
you need some hope.
Yeah, you need some hope. B, it was like, I couldn't do it in a way where it was like, really, you didn't notice until just now.
Yeah.
So I figured I decided it would have to be something that was overdone quickly, but I knew that Bakugo had to be the one to kind of get it out of him.
Yeah, and it was interesting that it happened because he was angry, which is not a side of Izuku that you see a whole lot.
But remember, Energon, when in its original state, messed with Kurai's head, and he had to be careful with that.
Yeah.
So let's see how Deku does with that, because we know our boy's pretty emotional.
Yes. He's a big crybaby. Our friend who we recently exposed to My Hero Academia, he loves it, but he's like, I just can't get behind Izuku because he's just like Mickey Mouse as a superhero. I'm gonna be the greatest hero. Haha. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm dead. I love Izuku. I don't care what he says, but I thought that was pretty
really
funny.
Fun.
But yes,
he
funny. Is very emotional, and maybe it's just because I relate.
It's a good thing Energon doesn't get triggered off of people crying, because Izuku would just his brain would just melt. It would turn into
the output of tear bending, just energy tears.
He just does like laser tears.
Yes. Just screaming and wailing with energy tears. There's probably a quirk like that out there.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, Cyclops.
Oh, well, that's not tears. That's just when he looks at you.
Yeah, it's the same difference.
No, it's not the same. It's completely different.
The book that I read on X-Men, like this must have been back in grade school, but like I read the novel of the first movie that came out, and the first time his powers activated was because the girl he was dating, he found her like making out with some other dude, and he went to the bathroom to like be pissed or like to cry, I think. And like his eyes just started burning, and then he blasted a hole like into the girl's bathroom. Like he didn't kill anybody, but everybody was freaking out, and he's trying to cover his eyes, but like they're hurting, and it's a whole thing. I don't know why that's what I got reminded of, because like I had honestly forgotten about that until just now.
I triggered a core memory there. All right, sorry. The book, the story, chapter.
What do you think of the messages that were left for the?
I mean, it was kind of what I expected. You know, kind of has a little tidbit for each person he's close to or worried about, and then, you know, just a general farewell. And then, I mean, for me, it was I don't know. I'm like...
Interesting in what way?
I don't want to say interesting. It's the wrong word. I liked how you had everyone kind of move out and leave Mina to it.
Yeah.
And that she didn't even mean to play the message, because I think she wouldn't have for quite a while.
Yeah, no, I knew that like
at
this point.
An accident.
Yeah, like at this point, like she wouldn't like. She wouldn't. It would be one of those things where it's like you don't want to hear like those last words, because then like that's what
they're really gone.
Yeah, because like you don't have anything, like you don't have anything after that.
Yeah, so I liked how you did that. At least I think there wasn't anything in particular in the message that I was like super like that really stood out necessarily. Her little imagination of their future together, that hurt.
Okay, yeah. I was going to do some sketches of that, but I didn't have the and again, like I put like all the sketches into the last couple chapters and ran out of time to do it for this one.
No worries. I think everyone's still reeling from that last chapter. That being said, no, yeah, the messages were great.
I was honestly I was inspired by I was kind of inspired by the second season of The Dragon Prince. You know, when Callum has the letter from his stepdad.
Yeah.
And he's like he doesn't want to read it because he doesn't want it to. He doesn't want his last words to be over with. So that's kind of what went into that.
That makes sense. Cool. So yeah. Anyway, we have the very very Izuku Bakugo conversation. You guys were wanting some more Bakugo character development.
Yep.
Here you go.
Yep. I was like, yeah. Again, I knew it had to be Bakugo who would bring it out of him, and like. And it couldn't be just because of his relationship with Deku. It had to be an homage to Kurai.
Yeah. And I liked that.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to figure out where it went from there. I can't remember.
After that, you know, it's Mina realizing, you know, she's going to have to help Deku.
Yes. That was pretty powerful. And, like, you know, Deku's really smart, but, you know, Mina really had that intimate relationship with Kurai, so she's going to have to kind of come alongside her friend and help him to work through just figuring out the stuff.
Because All Might can't help him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that Sakudai, by the time he was a teenager, it was just gut impulse because he'd been using his quirk for some time.
And Deku helped him to, like, even in the beginning of their high school careers together, like, Deku helped him come up with some ideas for, like, how to help control his powers a little better. But like I mentioned in the stories, like, that's not the same as understanding how the core principles work.
And then it's also something that affects your emotions, and, like, guys don't really talk to each other about that kind of thing a lot in general. So, I mean, Mina is the one who actually sat down and had those hard conversations with him. Yep. So, it'll be kind of interesting moving forward how that'll look.
And then after that, we surprise, we've got some elements from the third movie already showing up, and the second movie's only technically just finished.
Yeah, that caught me off guard for sure. But I was intrigued. It also, you know, it definitely added some suspense, which makes me want to keep going, because I think it would be easy as a reader to just be like, oh, he's gone.
It's like that's
it. But you know, the story's still moving forward, and then we also have a second cameo of this mysterious new character, and I'm very curious to see what people think of her.
Yeah. What's her deal going?
I love that she has that inner monologue, and suddenly we've got, what is this? Vestiges?
Yep. Possibly.
So I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to give too much away. I'd like to
man, I'm so excited for this.
Oh, they're gonna either eat you alive or they're gonna love it. We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and your theories.
Yes,
for sure.
I'm very curious. Yes, I'm very curious to see what you guys think of all this.
Nice. Now it was a really short,
short
behind
chapter.
the scenes, but also a very long video because the reviews from the previous chapter were insane. I personally would split this in half, but that's okay. It makes it simple for you.
Again, I put the timestamps in so people can skip to whatever.
All right, we'll keep it simple for you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I think that's about it.
Yeah. This wasn't a very long chapter, but you know, there's a fair amount that had to happen in it. The next couple of chapters will be more similar in length to the last one, I want to say.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh, this one. The previous one.
The previous one.
Oh my
gosh. One where he died.
Okay.
Like not the one before it, where it was like it went on for like 60 pages. It's like,
okay.
I think these next ones are going to be like, they're more like middle long.
Middle long, like 30 pages. What? 20 pages.
I'll do a hang on.
I feel like an average chapter.
Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up. I need to figure out how long. Because the one the one that I just read was just 13 pages. And the next one is 32 pages. Okay.
All right. Not too bad.
No, that is a long. Never mind. That is a long one. What am I talking about? What am I talking about?
I don't know.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for sticking around for this, and we hope you guys have a plus ultra couple of weeks. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.